Hey guys. You are watching your anime world, how are you all? Please support to subscribe this channel for watching new interesting stories. So in this video, we will see what if Deku's absence forced Katsuki to redefine heroism. Here is short summary. Is a twisted bond really so twisted when it had felt so fulfilling at a point? What is happiness, anyways? What kind of hero can Katsuki even be in this sort of society? When will the birds sing for him? Or, I mean to say, well, do you even see Izuku as a person, Katsuki? Shouto Todoroki had asked him as they sipped disgusting beers. I think you see him as a symbol to strive towards. To chase. And promptly turned the next 4 years of Katsuki Bakugou's life upside down. What kind of hero are you without Izuku Midoriya? And just what is heroism, anyways? But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. Katsuki liked his new car. So, it must have been his friends that he disliked, right then. They yapped all the way to Tape Face's apartment, talking about whatever nonsense they talk about. Katsuki probably can drive and hold conversation at the same time he had in the past with no trouble, but what a convenient excuse it was to use to zone out. Katsuki, what do you think? Do you think we should? Nope. Don't care. In fact, don't talk to me when I'm fucking driving. Eijiro scoffed from the passenger seat. Since when can you not speak and drive at the same time? But it was a quiet comment which only Katsuki could hear. He ignored it, and stepped on the accelerator with too much force. Then it's Mina's turn to wave them away and skip to her apartment. Then dunce faces. Finally, Eijiro, you going home then? He asked, halfway onto the pavement. When is Edgeshot getting in? Like 7 a.m. Damn bastard just had to get an early flight. Eijiro chuckled. Well, it's probably a late flight from the States. Ah, shut up. Yeah, I'm heading home, now get the fuck out of my car. And then it was just him. Eijiro lived close to Katsuki's own flat in Agency Dynamite, in a nice enough district with nice enough food. It would be, what? A 6-minute drive. Katsuki could be home in 6 minutes, if he just put his new car into drive and stepped on it. But Katsuki turned around, spinning the wheel in his hands to do a complete U-turn. And within moments he could see a kaleidoscope of city lights approaching on the highway. X2 is an alright establishment by all means. When the extras wanted to meet him, he always suggested this dimly lit, casual bar spilling out at the mouth of a tunnel. Inoffensive decor, consisting of a few vintage band posters, a couple of records hung up like trophies. The decor was fine, and Katsuki enjoyed the rumbling of the train speeding beside. Tonight, Katsuki beelined straight for the rooftop, walked all the way to the edge and settled on a high stool. Someone came to take his order. He asked for a beer. What kind? Whatever. He hates beer, but he did not expect someone to come and ask him what he wanted, so he just ordered it anyways. And he didn't necessarily want to drink that right then. It came, and he sipped on it. His mind was so frighteningly blank that he continued drinking, regardless of how damn disgustingly the drink settled on his tongue. He looked at the Musutafu skyline and found it fine. Ordinary. What is this stupid feelie? Hey, what the fuck? Katsuki jumped out of his skin. The glass bottle of nondescript beer sloshed at the sides and coated his fingers. Great, he thought as he shook his fingers with a vengeance. Great. What a great night. Hey, Katsuki glared at Shouto Todoroki, in his stupid outfit and stupid blank face. You said that already, you moron. Shouto settled into the stool beside Katsuki with ease. You didn't say it back, so I thought I'd repeat it. Is this guy for real? But Katsuki knew the answer to that, and softened. He couldn't be mad at Shouto, because for a moment Katsuki had appreciated the effort it took to move his mouth to speak, to string some sounds into words. And, suddenly, he wondered, exactly how long had he been sitting here, at X2, overlooking this boring skyline, in complete silence. Oi, Katsuki snapped. You followin' me? A waitress tittered closer to Shouto, blushing bright red as she asked him what he wanted to drink. He asked for whatever my friend is having, and Katsuki rolled his eyes, grumbling It's terrible, should've picked for yourself. Shouto shrugged. Anyways, I'm not following you, don't worry. This bar is near my apartment, and I have your location on my phone, so when I saw you were nearby, I decided to stop by. Katsuki's brows scrunched and chest flared with irritation, or was it exasperation? That is following me, Aircon. He barked. Oh, I guess I did follow you then. Katsuki would rather take another disgusting swing of his beer, and swallow expeditiously to not let the bitter taste settle on his tongue, than retort. There was silence. Why are you here all by yourself? Katsuki shrugged, but Shouto was nothing if not patient. And Katsuki was not 16 anymore. Your guess is as good as mine, was Katsuki's underwhelming answer. Shouto hummed thoughtfully, so you don't know either. Maybe I can help. And that's how Shouto spoke nowadays, even, toneless, but earnest. And Katsuki realized, fuck it, why not? He liked the feeling of moving his mouth, far more than bitter, confusing silence. Something's been feeling off. The waitress brought Shouto's drink in a glass with ice cubes and slices. Katsuki looked back to his drink, a glass bottle without so much as a napkin. Are you fucking serious? Katsuki's eye twitched, but really there was no bite in it. Feeling off how? I don't know, but it's been going on for a while. How long? Katsuki thought long and hard. Maybe a month. Shouto hummed. But today most of all. Katsuki can drive and talk at the same time. He just didn't want to tonight. What happened? Anything special? There is a teenager that lives inside Katsuki, and his instinct still rears its stupid-looking head nowadays. Right now, the brat wants to lie, and say, nah, wants to chase half and half away and return to silence. I can figure this shit out myself, he says. But what's the point of lying, he thought. I asked Izuku to join my agency. And Shouto, who these days spoke evenly, tonelessly, and earnestly, didn't jolt, quirk a brow, or let a single muscle react. He patiently waited for Katsuki to finish. He said no. Shouto hummed. The last time we spoke he said that he wanted to keep being a teacher. Shouto offered. Yeah, so everyone's telling me. I get it. Katsuki snapped, but again, it was harmless. He couldn't be bothered to do harm today. To bite tonight. In fact, Katsuki couldn't be irritated right now even if he wanted to. The anger that the brat within him was so prone to was buried deep, on this summer's night at 11 o'clock, on some lame rooftop bar. Are you annoyed that he wants to be a teacher? All our teachers were pros too, and we never saw them as any less. Katsuki thought long and hard. Because, after all, the fuck's the point of opening up if you're not honest? And this is Shouto, not someone like Ajiro who looked at you like he saw right through and was waiting for you to reach a conclusion about yourself that he had reached years ago, or Mina who laughed everything off and lightened even the heaviest conversation as if that's what you need all the damn time. And Dun's face, nah, no need to even think about that scenario. I don't care what the nerd decides to do with his life. Katsuki said, evenly, more like, it's confirmed why I've been feeling, I dunno, weird. For the last month, yes, since he got his suit. Yeah, I guess, Shouto hummed. Strange how? Shouto asked. I don't know, damn it, unfulfilled. The word molded to his tongue, and it felt right. Izuku wants to keep being a teacher and do hero work on his free periods and lunch breaks. Fine, he wants to, God, did you realize he went to speak to Round Face at the end? I think he wants to date her. That makes no fucking sense to me. None of this makes any sense. It's like he got his suit, and nothing changed for him. But everything changed for me. Shouto listened, and patiently waiting for Katsuki to come to a close. Are you worried about him? A spark of recognition. The word worried. The fog in his mind parting, revealing what could be a semblance of truth, of reality, amongst this sea of confusion. Yeah, I guess, could be it. What's so bad about wanting to teach or wanting to date? Shouto asked curiously. Katsuki scoffed. Who has the time for that? Deku's wanted to be a hero for as long as he could fucking breath. He chased that shitty dream for years, breaking bone, spilling blood, and even being quirkless didn't stop him from striving for it. For the first time tonight, Katsuki sounded, felt alive, and now, he wants to be a part-timer. To waste his time with women and romance. Katsuki took a breath, and his brows scrunched ever so lightly. His pupils darted to the dark sky in his search for the right words. For the most honest truth. I feel like he's given up, like he don't see himself as worthy or something, I don't know. Shouto hummed and Katsuki felt better. So that's why you're worried. Katsuki didn't respond, but jerked his chin to his chest in a quick nod. I don't think you need to worry about him. Shouto started, I said this at dinner and I stand by it. My life isn't just about being a hero, and maybe neither is his. Maybe he has some new goals. Izuku isn't the only one giving more thought to romance, you know. Katsuki's lips twitched in displeasure. No. Katsuki turned towards Shouto, for me life is being a hero. That's all it is. Let me tell you, I haven't thought about something as boring and useless as romance, he spat as if it was poisoned, ever. And Deku, he's supposed to get that. Shouto's eyes widened by just a tad. Like, I dunno. Katsuki suppressed the whine of frustration climbing in the back of his throat. Poisoning it. How to put it, he's given up the chase. Shouto offered. Katsuki stiffened. The unbidden image of Izuku walking away, turning his smile away, and disappearing into the crowd. Towards romance. To get home to his lecture. To his students. Walking away. Katsuki's lips fell open to say, yeah that's it, but when he tried to force his words out, damn it. Nothing fell. And while Shouto may miss social Ks at times, no one could ever accuse him of being inconsiderate. He filled the silence quickly. I think he did you a favor actually. Katsuki flinched. Oh, he took a swig of his beer. Yeah, I think Izuku's set you free. Katsuki's brow twitched in irritation. Not his beep. Didn't say you were. Then say what you mean. Katsuki glowered. I mean that, I've spent a lot of time with you, with him, with both of you together. And it's not that you have a bit of a strange relationship, it's more that, I don't think I've ever met anyone else who has such a twisted bond. I wouldn't ever be able to describe it. Any emotions, irritation, nonchalance, sadness, frustration, washed away from Katsuki. Left him behind, gone with the wind. Suddenly he was just curious. I mean to say, well, do you even see Izuku as a person, Katsuki? Katsuki reeled. What is that supposed to mean? I didn't realize it until this conversation, but to you Izuku and being a hero is so closely tied. Perhaps he is a symbol to you. To strive towards. Katsuki's heart sank. He looked at Todoroki properly now, his stupid red and white hair that looked silly under the murky yellow light. And his face was as neutral as ever. But the bastard was top of the class and is damn good at being a hero. Which is why Katsuki refused to tell Shouto he was right. You should find out who you are outside of being a hero, like Izuku is. Katsuki's face instinctively crunched. Just because you've had your Buddha under the tree moment carving stupid ass chopsticks doesn't mean I need that same thing to be fulfilled, ya hear me? Katsuki took another swig. I'm happiest bein' a hero. That's all I want. Shouto hummed in thought. Then, you're right. Just because that's the conclusion I came to doesn't mean it has to be yours. Katsuki hummed. Then, another silence, both so lost in ideas. So, what is being a hero to you, if not to strive towards Izuku, to compete with him? To be like him? Shouto, evenly, nonchalantly, earnestly, stuck his hand into Katsuki's stomach and poured it out. Left him bleeding on his chair. Oh, I mean, Shouto continued, crime is shockingly low nowadays, and even if it's not permanent we're not exactly breaking our bones to save people. So, what does it mean to be a hero, at 25, what does it mean to you, Katsuki? And what a question that was. To be a hero was to be like Deku. And fuck if that didn't come out stuttered and pathetic. Katsuki burned and paled, all at once. And burned with a new realization. Is this supposed to make me feel better? Deku wants to live a life, doing whatever. Rankings don't mean shit. Crime is petty as fuck. What? And the walls were closing in. Who am I? That choke sounded pathetic, Katsuki thought. Supposed to, what? Just sit still. Shouto laughed, and it was surprising. Loud chuckles grew into something guttural. But it reached for Katsuki and dragged him out of his emotions, using the rope of irritation. "What's so damn funny, you idiot?" he barked. "Wow, you really are nothing without obsession, huh?" Katsuki shook with frustration. "The fuck does that have?" "I just mean," Shouto caught his breath, but the smile stayed plastered on his lips, "I just mean that your ambition, your drive, it makes you what you are. If you want to be a hero, you can be a hero. You don't need to stay still. You've never stayed still. It's what I love about you. Everyone now is looking up and thinking, how can I be my best self, but you've been doing that for a long, long time." Katsuki's breath came out stuttered, and stupid little tears welled in his eyes. "So, what does it mean to be a hero, without Izuku? Surely you can figure that out?" Shouto asked. Katsuki roughly swiped the tear dribbling down his scarred cheek. "Wanna be the damn best." Shouto smiled. "I never had a villain to chase, you know. Not like you, Izuku, or even Round Face. It was always me I was up against. I wanna be the best version of myself. Right, I know I said that I want to make space for being more than being a hero, and you're right. Maybe it's not the same for you. To me your hero is one of complete victory. So, get complete victory over life and happiness." Katsuki chuckled, delirious. "What the fuck does that even mean, huh? Complete victory over happiness. Be the best version of yourself. Be so happy that you can say with all your might that you have conquered life. This, too, is heroism, no?" Katsuki slumped into his chair, and took another swig of his beer. It tasted sweet, and rich. "Hey, what the fuck? He must be going crazy." He breathed out through his nose, it was a quick exhale. And looked out onto the skyline. The lights twinkled. The overground train passed under his nose, it rumbled, reverberating through the counter, making his beer bottle jostle. A small smile spreading across his lips, competitively. "Okay, then Buddha, how will I know when I've gotten total victory over happiness then, huh?" Shouto turned away from Katsuki and positioned his form towards the skyline too. And thought, for a moment, "I met someone in my chopstick making class." Katsuki scoffed and rolled his eyes, but the number 2 hero ignored it with great patience. "And he said that we hardly notice when the birds sing. When was the last time you heard them? We live in the city." Katsuki asked, disbelievingly, "Are there even any dam?" "There are," Shouto said. "He said that only when we have space in our heart to appreciate the birds do we hear them. It doesn't count if we try to, though, if we strain our ears." Katsuki scrunched his face. "This sounds fucking useless. What I'm trying to say is that, you'll be happy. And the birds will sing. 2 months since the dinner. The room called love. Izuku Midoriya knows that he is the happiest he has been in a long time. He felt like he was a good teacher, but before there had always been a quiet voice which whispered to him, what can you teach them? Fraud, it accused. But the other day he wore his suit to assist in evacuating a collapsed building. He rushed in, of course. The first one at the scene. Crawling inside, mindful to not scratch the steel coating his body. And the voices, he heard yelps, and screams, and pleas. And he could have rushed even faster, let his muscles take him where they felt he needed to go. But Izuku was no longer 16 years old. He was a teacher. There was one right path. To think slow and smart, rather than fast and thoughtlessly. Izuku took his time and crawled through the cracks and crevices. The building did not collapse, and he rescued 30 people. No casualties. The next day he faced his class and taught them with a surety and confidence that he had never felt quite so palpably before. So, he was happy. He poked into the room called teaching career, and his eyes glided over the furniture. Everything was well, good, squared off. Next door was the room called hero, and he poked in there too. Good. 30 people. Before the morning rush, they sat there and waved at him, and Izuku ducked out. Then, Izuku thought of the late summer chill hitting his skin. It was well past sunset, and he was walking on the pavement with a pep in his steps. His lips naturally tilted into a goofy smile. He was walking home after his, 6th, 7th date with Uraraka. Ah, It was a date, Izuku thought questioned. He could hardly feel the soles of his feet with the way he bounced from step to step. As if she had touched him with her fingers and suspended him into thin air. Deku. Izuku turned around, startled, and found Uraraka running towards him. She was wearing the same beautiful dress he had left her in, her hair windblown and her cheeks pink. She stopped close to him, and pinned him with wide, determined eyes. She was flushed. "Ah, Uraraka, what are you doing?" She interrupted, looked away skittishly, and her hands found themselves buried in her hair. "Is everything okay?" Izuku asked, suddenly concerned. "Did I do something wrong?" "Yeah, everything's fine," she squeaked. Why is she squeaking? I promised myself I'd do something today." Her eyes flicked back towards him. "So I will." Izuku did not have a moment to wonder what she meant, for she was leaning in. He did not have the blessing of even a second to sort out his thoughts, because she was in his space, leaning up, tilting to the side. His heart swooped, and fell, and squeezed, and floated. The second her soft lips grazed his he tilted to the other side, leaned down, and pressed his own flush against hers. "I can't believe this." She pressed closer, puckered, and she was gone. Izuku opened his eyes, and thought that he had never, ever seen Uraraka so red. "She's so pretty," was his first thought. The second. Definitely a date. If Izuku opened the door to the room called love, there would be one woman, standing inside, waiting for him. Smiling as he walked in. Squared off. Everything is going well. He was doing his best. That night Izuku slept giddily. The pleasure of being Ochako's boyfriend was an honor Izuku never took for granted. His search engine was his best friend, his mentor, his wise old wizard. What flowers are the most rare and expensive in October? Peonies. He had looked cautiously over his shoulders in the staff room before typing. French kissing tutorial. If the results could talk they'd say, "Dude, aren't you, like, pushing 30? He flushed red. There was also, best depictions of love in movies. And watched them all in one night, pen in hand and notebook out. No one mentioned the 6th installment of All Might the Great Protector, where Bronze Age All Might protected the president's daughter and fell in love. The critics deemed it derivative, but Izuku wholeheartedly disagreed and had added it to his roster nonetheless. If he could pick out one moment where he had thought, "I really like Ochako," he would think of an autumn day where they had gone to an elementary school together to give a talk. Afterwards she came over to his UA apartment and they nursed beers on the sofa. It was sunset and they were sitting awfully close. She had said to him, "I think I prefer the quirk counseling work more than hero work sometimes." His eyes had widened in interest. "Wow, really? How come? I mean, I definitely understand." "Well," she had smiled sweetly, "they're just so sweet. And even when they're not, when they don't like you, or pay you no mind, or have never heard of you, I think, they're just kids. Nothing can be held against them. They're free, to do whatever they want." Izuku's smile fell, and he looked at her as if he were seeing her for the first time. And he felt ever so lucky. "Oh, so very lucky." She noticed. "Sorry if that makes no sense or sounds weird." And that was the first time he had kissed her without any prompting. After he had said to her, "I really enjoy teaching. Working with kids. Talking to them, listening to them. So, I really relate to you. We are so similar. How can I not be with her?" She nodded brightly. "Yup. You know, I never understood why Bakugou is so rude to his fans, even the ones that antagonize him." Izuku thought about that and found that he agreed. "Yeah, I suppose Kachan's temper is the culprit." Izuku chuckled. "Have you spoken to him recently?" she had asked. Izuku chuckled, and it was strained. "Ah, I saw him at the Class A dinner last week, but other than that not really. I suppose we both are quite busy this time of year." Ochako nodded in understanding. "But you two seemed friendly at the dinner, so it's really nothing to worry about. I think I'm the same with some of the girls, especially Momo and Mina. I really should reach out to them soon. It's just a part of growing up, right?" The beer had loosened Izuku, so he slumped freely into the sofa. Was that the case? That when you get a significant other all else gets relegated to the background? "I suppose, but it wasn't a real conversation. Izuku continued, we got really close after I got my suit, but then, it just kind of evened out. I feel like whenever I run into Kachan we're just catching up, you know. Is that what it's like with the girls? Ochako hummed in thought. You know, after graduation it wasn't, but, yeah, after a year or so it became like that. So, you don't need to feel bad. Her hand reached across the small space between them and gripped his fingers comfortingly. Catch up, Chan. That's what Izuku had come to call Kachan in his mind sometimes, in his most bitter moments. Honestly, you're right, Izuku said brightly, it isn't something to feel bad about. I mean, he's amazing. His agency is so cool, and Izuku's smile turned genuine, soft, wide, small. All at once, he's really become the hero I always knew he would become. You can't really expect someone like that to be available for your beck and call, right? Ochako tilted her head to the side in confusion. 4 months since the dinner. Wanted. The guy that parked on the double lines. Threat level. High. Dun's face and ears just wanted to seem charitable. After all, Katsuki thought with a sneering defeat, this is what heroes did all day when they weren't chasing weed smokers and people who spat gum on the floor with recipro bursts and smashes and heaven-piercing ice walls. But Katsuki had already filled his daily quota of apprehending single mothers stealing diapers from convenience stores, thank you very much, so now he found himself at the annual Divitek charitable gala, here to throw some cash on a vase or a painting he didn't give a fuck about just so the money goes to a good cause. What's the cause? Katsuki had asked over his shoulders while Dun's face and ears fucked about in his backseat cushion. Arg, I love these cushions so much. Ears gushed, and Katsuki rolled his eyes. But his frown couldn't drown out the smile growing on his face. Damn right, they're the best. It's not just one charity. A bunch are invited, and assigned to the different stuff on auction. Dun's face explained. They were stopped at a red light, so Katsuki looked over his shoulders once again to glare disbelievingly at Dun. Fine, Denki. Who was pushing himself deeper and deeper into his pillow. So, who are we supporting then? Katsuki snapped. Denki grinned. Dunno yet. Katsuki sneered fiercely. Juro butted in. We gotta talk to the people from the charities and find out what they're all about, is all. Katsuki turned around and drove with a vengeance. You're the one who said you wanted to try new things, Bakugou. Juro whined. Yeah, try new things like a fucking concert, not a corporate snooze fest, god. Suddenly the gray suit jacket, the fancy-ass cufflinks, his black buttoned shirt, it all chafed, and he wanted to jump out of his skin. Katsuki swiped at a glass of champagne from the waiter walking by, and his eyes were already carving a path through the crowd. He needs to keep moving, he thought, so that no one would talk to him. Happy my ass, half and half. Everyone, the auction will start in 45 minutes. Katsuki winced at the announcement. He was 5 glasses of strawberry champagne in, and he had not talked to one charity representative, the annoying-looking, fresh-faced corporate wannabes, stuck behind desks since they did some internship at 20 with no real-world experience, wearing a blue paper flower brooch to signal, yes, we are here to take your money today and buy some wagyu for dinner later tonight. Make sure to talk to them, or you might end up giving your hard-earned money to some fraud job, Kachan. Was the last thing Denki had said to him before Katsuki promptly walked away. Katsuki looked around. There, oi. Katsuki stomped up to the nearest nameless, faceless, blue-flowered bloodsucker. Me, he asked, pointing a finger at himself. Katsuki's eyes closed into irritated slits. I'm literally facing you and standing, 10 inches away. Katsuki tried his best to rein his volume, and left the who the fuck else would I be talking to unsaid. Right, the man straightened. Tell me about your charity. Now. The extra's eyes lit up, and an easy smile played at his lips. Do you know much about what's going on in Zalvanai? Katsuki thought, came up blank, then thought even harder. Damn it, he could be embarrassed. The brat buried in him wanted to snap, why the fuck does it matter to me what goes on in the middle of fuck nowhere, but Katsuki swallowed this flush of inferiority. No, I don't. The man patiently nodded. Well, There's been violence between two ethno-religious groups for a long time, starting from the era before quirks. He explained evenly, and with the quirks the situation has just become worse. How? Katsuki asked. Well, initially the stakes became a bit more even, but the majority was able to develop better quirk education and overtook the Solvan minority. The Solvans live in southwestern Zalvanai and their discrimination has been completely institutionalized now. The government like to claim that they are aliens on the land, but there are plenty of records that they have been living on the land for hundreds of years. Katsuki scoffed, as if it makes a difference when people move there, anyways. It's all just dumb excuses to take land, or whatever. The man's gray eyes widened, shined, and he practically vibrated on the spot. Yes, you're exactly right. Katsuki rolled his eyes. Don't need some extra to tell me I'm right, he thought, even though he did feel a little vindicated by proving that he's not completely stupid. What does your stupid company have to do with this then? Well, the neighboring country Tarubana have been struggling to house all of the Solvan refugees. They're good enough to not send them back, but not too good. Katsuki appreciated the resentful roll of eyes, and the words dripped in playful derision, certainly not good enough to give them permanent homes. Over 1 million live in encampments, and they're completely reliant on charities to give them provisions, and works, and fix their homes, and give them food. Katsuki quirked a brow. So there's still bad things going on, huh? Katsuki commented mirthlessly. The papers would have you believe the biggest threat to humanity is the asshole that didn't pay for parking outside. The charity dork laughed at this. Oh, but didn't I see you use AP shot to take him out right before the event? Katsuki scoffed. So, you know my signature move. That's some kind of training they give you morons to make sure you milk every idle hero of their cash, huh? Katsuki sneered, but even he knew it was half-hearted. Yes, well, he smiled sheepishly, there was some training, out of complete honesty. But I was hoping to catch Chargebolt or Earphone Jack. Katsuki barked out his own laugh. Yeah, my company, the Haven Bridge, provides medical aid to these camps. We run over half of the hospitals in Tarubana. So. Yeah, cut to the chase, why'd you train for S3, huh? Katsuki crossed his arms over his chest and relished in the tenseness of the man's shoulders, the way his flickered in nervousness. He swallowed. We need to get in contact with Uravity. He all but screamed. We work with really vulnerable communities, and their quirks are just getting stronger and stronger. We'd love to get some of Uravity's quirk counseling extended into our camps. Please, you don't have to buy anything from us today, who cares about a bunch of dumb vases? Just put in a good word. Katsuki stared at him. He looked young, but not so young anymore. There were telltale signs of wrinkles embedded in the corner of his gray eyes, his eyes that were sunken and dark around the edges upon a closer glance. His gray hair made him look older than he was. He had a beauty spot, right under his lip. So what? Katsuki asked himself. You want an intro? Yeah, whatever, no big deal. Just calm down. He beamed. Then, please, give me your contact information, Mr. Dynamite. He exclaimed brightly. 5 minutes until the auction begins. The unnecessary scream startled Katsuki. Already? Gimme your card, Katsuki demanded. No way. Then the ball is in your court, and you might get lazy. He sang Lil tingly. As if I'm giving my number out to randos. Katsuki snapped. Charity dork laughed. What, because you're some big hero? As if you didn't just drop to number 17 on the billboard. Katsuki fumed, eyes turning into angry slits and palms crackling. "'S not my fault. That bastard was. Yeah, well gimme your number, quick. It's about to start." Katsuki grumbled and took the offered phone. The boy quirked a quick and easy smile. "Fine, whatever. Hello Mr. Dynamite, who is this?" "I'm from Haven Bridge, ? Already forgot about the Solvans, huh? Typical jobless Japanese hero. I mean, what's your name, smart guy?" "Oh, it's Atsuo. Pleased to meet you." "Whatever. You want an intro with Uravity, huh? Fine. Thank you. I really appreciate it." "Whatever. And thank you for buying the vase." "Had to buy something." "So, it wasn't because of my amazing sales pitch." Why am I still talking to this guy? Katsuki could not help but think. He sank deeper into his sofa. He stared at his phone. And thought of the small beauty spot next to his lip. Your sales pitch was ass. Atsuo is typing. Katsuki waited, and kept his texts tab open. For another second. Just swipe away. Then, Atsuo, are you using the vase? Katsuki looked up at his dining table. There was no clutter save for a clay vase and in it a bundle of sunflowers he had bought after work that day. What's the point of having an empty vase, huh? This was completely normal. There were no birds yet, but Katsuki found the yellow of the petals looking more yellow than yellow had ever done before. He rose from the sofa and, against every pull of his nature, against the brat within him kicking and screaming in indignancy, he snapped a picture of the vase full of sunflowers and sent it to this rondo. The second his thumb presses send, his boy jolted, as if on the battlefield. He lets the phone clatter on the dining table, and he finds himself walking away to the furthest end of his very nice apartment. 5 months since the dinner. The abrupt announcement. I've been seeing someone, and he wants to meet my friends. Sometime next week, cool. Sent separately to Air Conditioner Hero, Shitty Hair, Dunce Face, Mina, Juro, Tape Face. Shitty Hair. What a manly way of coming out, bro. Dunce Face. You're gay. Do you think I'm attractive? Be honest. Blocked. Air Conditioner Hero. I would love to. What time? Mina. JSKFNJSNFJNDJNKJNHGWGHNJFDNVKJNKVN. Tape Face. You found someone to date you. Katsuki read the last text and threw his phone on his bed with an annoyed huff, brows scrunching. It bounced once, then twice. Then clattered onto his bedroom rug. 6 months since the dinner. A very everyday. Izuku had never been self-conscious. But that didn't mean that he was ever confident in his looks either. Izuku was unconfident even before he collected mottled, bumpy scars all along his hands, arms, legs. Crawling up his face, hiding in his hairline. Even before then, he had never seen himself as attractive. But just simply never thought it necessary to think about it. The sky is blue, the sun rises in the east, and Izuku Midoriya is kinda ugly, he thought. Thinks. It was a crude awakening, months into being Ochako Uraraka's boyfriend, when he realized having a girlfriend, someone who loves you, actually makes you more insecure. Every morning, he finds himself spending more and more seconds in front of his bathroom mirror, scarred fingers tracing a scarred face. He hated the blooming shadow on his cheek. How rough his hand felt. How his hair twisted and frizzed. His brow scrunched in consternation, and he tried to think of the night before, when Ochako had lovingly peppered the same scar with light kisses while gripping his hand. Hate. He wiped his hand on the towel and left the bathroom with a renewed sense of urgency. Don't want her to think something's up, after all. He wanted to do his best with Ochako. Wanted her to be as happy as possible. It was a Saturday, and they had planned to do absolutely nothing, but together nonetheless. I made some breakfast, Ochako said brightly from the kitchen. What did you make? I toasted some mochi. Izuku smiled affectionately. Mochi for breakfast is a bit rogue, even for you. Izuku said jokingly, and she playfully pushed at his shoulder. Shut up, it's fine. So, they ate breakfast with a side of casual chit-chat. She was wearing his shirt, Izuku noticed. The room called love is all good, he thought with a relief. And all thoughts of scars and mottled skin were temporarily banished. By the way, I know we said we'd take a break today, but I have a teeny tiny meeting today. Ochako informed him while they did the dishes side by side, Izuku washing and Ochako drying. Izuku frowned. It's your only day off. I know. She scrunched her eyes in displeasure, but Bakugou asked me for a favor, and oh boy would I love to have an IOU to cash in with Agency Dynamite. Izuku's eyes widened. The plate almost slips through his calloused fingers. Kachan asked for a favor. Really? Ochako hummed in agreement. Yup, aren't you curious? She leaned in and teased. Izuku nodded. Okay, so you know he started dating, right? Well, the guy is super cool. His name is Atsuo. He works for a company called Havenbridge that sends doctors and medical aid to the refugee camps in Tarubana. I think he's a surgeon, actually. Or used to be before he moved into the corporate side of things. We've had a few meetings already and he seems like a sound guy. Super nice. Maybe a bit old for Bakugou. But anyways, he wants to learn more about quirk counseling and include it as a part of the medical treatment. Apparently, they're quite vulnerable there. So, we've been trying to find a way to transfer some of the training we offer. Cherubana. Of course, Izuku thought. He'd heard all about it in the news. Quirk counseling. Makes sense. Vulnerable people mixed with increasingly powerful quirks. Not good, not good. He's a surgeon. Wow. Izuku thought. So impressive. Kachan has a boyfriend. Izuku gasped, eyes bugging out. His mouth clamped shut, like a fish. Ochako turned to him with her own gasp, eyes wide and aghast. Wait, you didn't know. Izuku's mouth fell open again. There's no way, he gushed. Yeah, Ochako nodded fiercely. She squinted, then leaned up towards him. Then smiled teasingly. What, you expected Bakugou to be a... Izuku scoffed immediately. More like expected him to be Kachan, with a romantic partner. Eating breakfast together, doing the dishes side by side, letting a stranger turn towards him, lean close and tease him. To share a bed while the surgeon grips Kachan's fingers and peppers light kisses over his scars. Nope, Izuku can't picture it. Not at all. When the shock wore off, and it only took 10 very long seconds, it was replaced with a sort of baffled delight. Wow, he gushed. I really wanna know what kind of person he is. You said he's a surgeon. Must be a bit older, right? Who would have thought Kachan would be into older men? I wonder what sort of build he has, although I don't think Kachan would be the type to prioritize looks. I bet he's super smart and interesting. That sounds like something Kachan would look for. Or else he'd get bored. Do you know how long they've been together? How they met? Wow, who would have thought? I bet it was through work. Izuku jolted. You're mumbling, she said with a sort of fond exasperation. Ah, he flushed. Sorry, she laughed it off. I don't mind, but let me answer some of your questions at least, you goof. Izuku waited patiently, wiping his hands dry with a tea towel. I don't know how long they've been together. He asked me for the favor months ago, but I only heard from Mina that they're together 2 weeks ago. Yes, he's a surgeon. Yes, he's a bit older, maybe 32. He is tall but not taller than him. Slim build, gray hair with the cutest little beauty spot next to his lip. Izuku took in new information with the keenness of a student. And for the rest, you might be right. But you never know. You couldn't believe Bakugou would find a partner. Neither could I. So maybe we don't know much about his tastes either. That thought stuck to Izuku's skin. Mildly uncomfortably. And coming from someone who thought you were a... Ochako turned to him with a sly smile. They tend to surprise you. Izuku mustered a smile, but the fact was that his mind was entirely elsewhere. Izuku thought that he did not know a Kachan that would let someone else wash dishes by his side. Would he wash or would he dry? Izuku wondered. Can I crash your meeting? Please. Later that day Izuku found himself buzzing in front of Ochako's office. You let us talk, okay, Izuku. Then come in at 4 o'clock, and you better be nonchalant. She had ordered him. So, he waited until 3:59 and walked in. Ah, sorry for the intrusion. He bowed. Ah, Izuku, wow, this is a surprise. So much for being natural, Ochako. Izuku Midoriya. The guest yelped, gushed. Izuku stared at him for a moment, at the dark circles around his eyes, at his messy gray hair, at the baggy sweater that fell perfectly on his form and the collared shirt poking out from underneath. So, this is Kachan's taste. It's so nice to finally meet. How would he address me? Izuku wondered. War hero, a teacher, Uravides, Katsuki's childhood friend. Izuku's heart clenched, and there was a void in his stomach. He buried the feeling and approached the conference table. He offered a hand. It's nice to meet you, Atsuo. Izuku beamed, and suddenly he felt like an obsessive fanboy. Who are you? What are you like? What are your hobbies? I've been telling Katsuki I wanted to meet you. Pretty shamelessly I'm afraid. He smiled sheepishly and rubbed the back of his neck. I'm a huge fan of Hero Deku, you see. Ochako barked a chesty laugh. Ha! I bet Bakugou hates that. Izuku watched Atsuo, who cracked a cheeky grin. Yeah, you bet he does. Throws anything within an arm's reach when I tease him about it. He teases. And Katsuki is a playful boyfriend. Izuku made a note of this and that. So, I heard you're a surgeon. That must be tough, he offered. It sure was tough, Atsuo said, eyes far away, but I haven't practiced in a while. I mostly work in the business space now, trying to cohere the medical response in the camps. He turned to Ochako, which is why we're very, very eager to get the quirk counseling cross-training rolling. Ochako grinned toothily and offered Atsuo a huge thumbs up. Yup, the only thing left is the funding, but it seems like you're really getting the ball rolling on that. Atsuo turned to Izuku. Haven Bridge is hosting a gala to raise some awareness and a whole lot of funds to support the exchange. To bring the doctors here, let them train, and all that. I told Katsuki there is no way he isn't using his big shot hero contact list to make this work, so I'm sure I'll see you both there. It's in 2 weeks. He cracked a fond grin, tilting his head to the side ever so slightly. There ought to be some kind of perk to dating a hero, right? Izuku found the wrinkles forming in the edge of his eyes charming. He was attractive, easygoing, intelligent and principled. And perhaps it was because Izuku had been plagued by Ketchup-chan for a long time that even after the meeting, he still couldn't completely imagine it. Izuku bought a new suit for the gala. He had gone into a sort of suit store, meaning they had men's suits on display and the decor looked good enough for Izuku to immediately give up on finding elsewhere, and walked in. He approached a shop assistant and asked, "What kind of color would look good on me, do you think?" And she replied, "Oh my god, your hero Deku." They became fast friends, and she dressed him in a green tan suit jacket, trousers, a darker green button-down and a maroon tie. He had looked at himself in the mirror and decided, he had done his best. When Ochako saw him, she kissed him sweetly in the car, and he was thankful that he had put in the effort. The room called Love was just alright. The gala was in a beautiful venue, all vaulting ceilings, trays of expensive-looking canapes circulating. It was an art gallery usually, Izuku realized, and a modernist one at that. The gray, clean walls and large windows were so Kachan, and even with their lack of contact Izuku was sure that he had a hand in choosing the place. Or maybe not, who knows. Ochako had her arm linked around his, and her hair pulled into a simple updo. It was nice seeing members of Class A throughout the night. He ran into Kirishima when they both dove for a tray of red wine. "Yo, Midoriya, how are you? It's been ages." Kirishima grinned. It was a quick, easy one, and Izuku found it easy to reciprocate. They both went in for a hug. "It really has been. Nice suit, dude, new," and they caught up. "So, have you spent much time with Atsuo, Kirishima?" Izuku asked casually, and Kirishima instantly brightened. His smile turned mean, mischievous. "Ha, Katsuki wishes he could hide his boyfriend away from us and make Atsuo think he's some kind of angel, I bet. But nope, I'm always shoehorning myself into their time, and honestly, I don't think Atsuo minds one bit. He loves ganging up on Katsuki. So familiar, so casual, so, not Ketchup-chan. Ah, well I just met him a couple weeks ago through Ochako and he seems so nice." Kirishima leaned in. "Right, they suit each other so well." "Oh, how?" Izuku wanted to ask. "How do they act around each other? Does he act differently with Atsuo? I can't imagine Kachan changing himself to suit a relationship, or hiding his thoughts. Does he feel more self-conscious now than he did before? Does he think about his SC? Hey, it's Midoriya." Kaminari joined the conversation, and Izuku let himself be swept away. The gala was fun. It would be more fun if Izuku could find a bathroom in this maze of a place. Izuku turned around a sharp corner, and walked along the long, gray corridor. They really should put up more signs. Izuku came upon another corner. "Did you make enough, you think?" A familiar, deep voice. Calm and even. Izuku had not gotten the opportunity to see, much less talk to Katsuki today. He could not bring himself to turn the corner, instead he pressed himself against it. Back to wall. For research, he thought, hand fisting and lips tilting into a determined smile, the one that graced his expression every Sunday before he started his crossword, or when his students asked him a tough question about how to best use their quirks. All thanks to you, you big shot hero. Atsuo gushed, his voice far brighter and more dynamic than Izuku had heard the older man's to be. Yeah, you better gimme the whole credit to your stupid board. Teasing, playful, and not necessarily biting, Izuku noted. Thump. Hey, Katsuki yelped, but it was breezy. Airy. There was a moment of silence. Someone will see, stupid. Katsuki chastised, and it seemed like exactly what Kachan would say to his partner, Izuku thought. Izuku inched closer to the corner and peeked out, curiously. The two men were about equal in height, with Katsuki looking down on the surgeon by just a few centimeters. Nah, it's a big gallery and there's no need for anyone to come here. The surgeon's hands were on Katsuki's hips, pulling him close. Katsuki stared at him with a brow crimped. And scoffed. He pushed away at Atsuo's shoulders, but even Izuku could tell it was half-hearted. And Izuku could not help but think it didn't seem like the same hand that heaved explosions out of its pores. Not the one with streaky, calloused skin that resembled his own in places. Atsuo pulled back just an inch. I want to thank you. It means a lot to me, that you asked so many of your friends to come. Katsuki jerked back, and squinted an eye in confusion. What? Like it's hard. Don't be grateful for the bare minimum, you idiot. Ah, Izuku noted. He's still pretty much the same. Okay then, Atsuo said shyly, so quietly Izuku could barely hear. And he watched the surgeon drop his hands from Katsuki's hips. Katsuki leaned forward, and captured Atsuo's lips in his, eyes falling shut, his hand coming up to cradle Atsuo's jaw. Holding him still and steady as he pressed into him. Izuku leaned forward to get a good look at the surprising sight. He kisses like Izuku would accept Katsuki to kiss, with a firm insistence. They moved closer together and Atsuo's hands returned to Katsuki's hips. But Izuku did not recognize the Katsuki whose brows relaxed completely, whose eyes closed gently. Who held Atsuo's face in his palms firmly, solidly, licking into him slowly. This was not Ketchup-chan, but someone much more pliable. Izuku felt ashamed for watching, and turned away as quietly as he could. Stepping heel then toe, feeling awfully curious. 9 months since the dinner. The hands I hate. Katsuki was a light sleeper, which had never been a problem until he started sharing his bed with a partner. So, he jostled awake when he felt a chill creep from beyond the duvet into the nape of his neck. He turned and opened an eye with significant effort. Atsuo was sitting up, hence the lifted duvet. Katsuki blinked away the sleep in his eyes. His boyfriend was staring into space. Katsuki's brow quirked. He was concerned. Yo, Katsuki said softly. Atsuo's gaze flickered towards Katsuki. Sorry, did I wake you? Katsuki sat up too. Yeah, but I'm awake now so nothing you can do about it. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. Exasperated, but fond. Go on, then. What's on your mind? Atsuo brought the duvet up to his chin. Nothing. Bullshit. Those guarded eyes, the tense lips, the complete inability to just reach out and shake Katsuki awake to alert him that something is, indeed, on his mind. Katsuki had a PhD in deciphering emotionally incompetent nerds to figure out what causes their world to spin off their axis. And he would be using that PhD right now. You're so smart, Katsuki. There is something on my mind. Flattering me ain't gonna do shit. But Katsuki did feel a bit fonder. I was thinking, I really hate my hands. Ha, Katsuki chuckled. Atsuo chuckled too, but it was mirthless. Maybe even a bit embarrassed. Yeah, I hate looking at them, especially during the day when I'm sat at some desk, writing emails. God, I think I ought to buy some gloves. Katsuki turned to him and watched carefully. What's wrong with your hands? Katsuki asked, eyes pinning Atsuo. He was looking for any tell no matter how small. I don't mind your hands. It's what he should say and comes at no cost to himself. But the sweetness of the comment failed jolt Atsuo back to earth, so Katsuki frowned, searched for the culprit under the duvet and gripped it. Just feel better, damn it, he thought, earnestly. Atsuo turned to him and Katsuki thought he looked his age. Wiser than any of Katsuki's friends and classmates looked. Than he looked. And unlike Izuku Midoriya would have, Atsuo searched his feelings, and for the right words to explain his thoughts to Katsuki. I moved to the camps right after medical school, you know. Thought it was what I wanted to do. But it was so hard. And I was obviously not cut out for it. I felt sorry for myself, for making such a young boy go through all of this hardship. I thought I made the right decision to come back and start over. Katsuki listened carefully, and decided Atsuo didn't need platitudes, or advice, or anything of the sort. So, where do the hands come in here? His thumb stroked Atsuo's smooth skin. Much smoother than his own, and Katsuki wondered if the roughness bothered him. Well, I hated a lot about my life there. The long hours, all the pain and suffering. God, yeah, hated it. I am unilaterally happier now, in every way possible. But I liked my hands. Watching my fingers do something worthwhile. Oh, Katsuki knew the conversation had come to a natural close. He sank back into bed, and Atsuo did the same. Katsuki snaked a hand around his waist and pulled him closer, with the ease of habit. 11 months since the dinner. Tickets to a room called love. Oh, Izuku could just die. How much? His lips were set into a thin, tense line. His eyes wide and determined. Pupils shaky in anticipation. 10,000 yen. Fine, I'll take it. Please don't. Izuku jerked upright and looked at Shouto with a resolute smile. It's worth it, he exclaimed, clutching the hero Shouto plushie firmly in his right fist. He had one hand free. And 10,000 yen wasn't that much for such quality, so he grabbed the dynamite one, too. Now, that's just a bit excessive, Izuku. Shouto commented, deadpan, please don't spend money on this. I have a box of these just lying around in my office. No, I have tons of money, and I want to support my friends. Izuku squeaked, already walking towards the counter. They finished up at Hero U, Izuku's favorite merch store, and the one shop that could always be relied upon to stock up on Class A produce. Thank you for coming shopping with me. Izuku gushed, it's nice to see you. Should we go get a coffee? They were well into spring, perhaps even dipping into summer, so they decided to sit in an outdoor coffee shop. Izuku ordered a flat white. Shouto got a green tea. They collected their drinks and settled on a table outside in the sun. How are things with Uraraka? Shouto asked, and Izuku did not have to think about the answer. It's going great. He knew that it wasn't a lie in the slightest. They hardly fought. Ochako talked to Izuku about everything, from how her day went, to her thoughts as they come to her dreams, to her cravings. And Izuku told her about his students, about his traipses as a hero, about what he had for lunch. It was great. The room called love was doing just fine. Is it hard, being in a relationship? Shouto asked evenly. And Izuku was only momentarily startled by the question. Then, he thought about it. Honestly, no. And Izuku thought harder. Well, everything at first felt so new. Exciting. Sometimes it was uncomfortable, kind of like I wasn't being myself. Discovering a new you. Izuku's eyes widened in recognition. We talked about that last year at the Class A dinner, right? Right after I got my suit. Wow, so long ago. Izuku remembered it clearly, when Shouto had said, you said you have more space in your life than just being a hero. Something along those lines, right? Shouto smiled in recognition, perhaps thinking of that night with the same sort of warmth that Izuku did. Yes, I remember. Well, I suppose that's what I mean. Izuku mused, finding a new you, that was hard. Being in a relationship is like, suddenly you have to behave in a way you never have before, in ways you might have found embarrassing or uncomfortable. But if you like the person and admire them, they make you feel comfortable eventually and you get over it. Why? Izuku noticed Shouto's thoughtful eyes and thought, he has something on his mind, why do you ask? Well, I've given dating a shot, Shouto said nonchalantly. Izuku's eyes bugged out, but Shouto did not seem to think he had said anything particularly shocking as his expression stayed neutral. So, Izuku took a sip of his flat white. And I guess I didn't think it would be so hard. Shouto continued. Izuku softened. What is so hard? Shouto hummed in thought. Izuku observed him. His hair was short and artfully messy in a way that Izuku just knew he woke up like that. He wore a plaid shirt with the buttons undone over a tight white shirt, and he was objectively attractive. And a war hero to boot. And the number 2 hero. One thing Izuku knew Shouto did not struggle with is finding interested parties, Izuku thought fondly. Well, it's hard to relax completely with what is essentially a perfect stranger. Shouto explained, I wonder if I am being myself. And then it's not fun eating food with them, or going pottery painting, or getting drinks, or dancing. Izuku listened. People are asking me for relationship advice. I think romance is about leaving your comfort zone, right? Izuku offered, the idea that if you take a risk, it will eventually pay off. After all, love can be the hardest thing to achieve, but also the most rewarding. Izuku tried to imbue his words with a sugeness and confidence, even though they are heavily informed by critics. Com's top 20 rom-coms of the last century list. You said it got easier for you, though. Shouto pointed out. Well, I suppose I just got lucky. And it helps that Ochako and I were already good friends. Shouto hummed. That makes sense. I think it's easier to find a new you once you find someone you have some chemistry with, right? Chemistry. Izuku grappled at the word. Yeah, but what really is chemistry anyways? Shouto thought for a moment but then shrugged. I suppose I wouldn't know yet. Izuku watched him, and found that Shouto didn't look uncomfortable or troubled. Just curious about this whole thing. About the room called love. If you don't mind me asking, why try so hard? If it doesn't happen then maybe it's just not the right time. Shouto sipped his tea. Actually, I was inspired by Katsuki. Now, Izuku's eyes widened. And a pit returned to his stomach. His mind's eyes flashed too. Never mind, he's the type of person to make difficult things like this easy for himself. He's never really satisfied, so it just got me thinking, why should I be? Izuku watched him, and watched him, and watched him. The lightness in his eyes, and the complete lack of discomfort. Inspired. Kachan really is so amazing. Izuku looked fondly to the seat beside him, where the explosion hero, Dynamite plushie was sticking out, just enough for Izuku to see the mean, toothy grin stitched across his mouth. I want to be a bit more like that, to try and be as happy as I can be, and go beyond the hand I've been dealt. You know, beyond what's easy. Right, Izuku agreed brightly, seems to be working for him. Shouto quirked a brow curiously. Oh, you might not know this yet, but Katsuki and Atsuo broke up. Izuku's jaw fell open. Wow, really? Izuku was genuinely shocked. Huh, I did not think they would. How come? He asked. I heard that it was a mutual decision. Ah, Izuku thought. He doesn't want to share Katsuki's personal matter. Shouto was a good hero in every way possible, and he certainly wasn't a gossip. I thought they might last, I don't know. It's not like Katsuki to what? Soften up to someone like that. The second the words tippled off his tongue Izuku stiffened in recognition. That's what it was. What had struck Izuku as, not exactly strange but surprising about the stolen kiss in the art gallery corridor. Katsuki had been himself, strong and firm, but also unbelievable soft. A new him, that Izuku had not recognized. Izuku could hardly imagine a universe where Katsuki would show that side to one person, much less to break up with that person and open the door to others. Is that what he wants? What are his plans? Do I know anything about him anymore? At all. I think they just want to set each other free to be as happy as possible. Shouto said, and jolted Izuku out of his thoughts. The air conditioner hero smiled at Izuku comfortingly. Izuku thought of the Katsuki as described by Shouto, the oh-so-familiar person Shouto had gushed about, and thought of this breakup that he didn't know about, of a relationship he didn't know about. A life without Kachan was a new development, frightening to the 6-year-old that lived within Izuku but not necessarily to the 25-year-old on his skin. Just like finding a new you. But a life without Kachan while so many others had him within reach. That night, Izuku sent Katsuki a text. Izuku, hey, Do you want to have dinner, just us two? Felt like we haven't caught up in a while. 12 months since the dinner. Chicken and beer with a childhood friend. The doorbell rang. Katsuki used his chopstick to nudge at the crisping chicken, sizzling in bubbling oil, and decided they were nowhere near brown enough, so he walked over to the intercom and buzzed his guest in. A few minutes later the fried chicken was crispy, the fries were sitting warm in the air fryer ready to be tossed in some salt, pepper, and chili flakes, and the front door clicked open. "Kachan, can I come in?" Katsuki scoffed. "I buzzed you in, didn't I?" he shouted from the kitchen. "Please pardon the intrusion." And there he was, dressed in a sensible blue button-down with his sleeves rolled up, his blue blazer jacket slung over a scarred arm, and his other hand clutching a 6-pack of Sapporo beer. "Food's almost ready." Katsuki lifted each piece and let them rest on a bed of kitchen towels. "Oh wow, that smells amazing. The idiot is overcompensating." Katsuki continued working silently. This was the first time in months that he and Izuku had spent any time together, just the two of them. He had seen the part-time hero, full-time teacher, full-time boyfriend just a few weeks ago at Katsuki's 26th birthday drinks, sure. Izuku gave him an All Might X Core Series 10 hoodie, which Katsuki had bought for himself a few weeks prior, but he could have two, so it didn't really matter. They had spoken, caught up, then separated. Before that, there was for a Class A dinner where they'd sat on the same table, joked around about Izuku's students, and that was it. Before that, there might have been a lecture on quirk maximization in UA, but Katsuki could neither come early nor could he stay late. He delivered the lecture and left. The text came 2 weeks ago, well in advance. "Are you free sometime to catch up? Just us two, whenever is good for you." And so here they were, sitting at Katsuki's dinner table decorated with golden fried chicken, fries, warm beer, and a terracotta molded vase empty of flowers. "I really like the vase, Kachan," Izuku said through a mouthful of chicken. "Swallow first then talk, moron," Katsuki snapped. After all this time, Katsuki thought with mixed emotions, it was just too easy to fall back into rhythms. "Do you even see Izuku as a person?" Shouto had asked Katsuki almost exactly a year ago to this date. Katsuki chewed thoughtfully and stared at the boy before him, eyes catching on the gnarly scar on his cheek, on his hairline which forced his side part, on the fingers that gripped his chopsticks. The chicken and the fries had finished in the blink of an eye. And Katsuki opened the beer. "So now that we have finished the food, are we allowed to talk?" Izuku exclaimed, eyes bright and hopeful, and for a second he seemed 17 again. Katsuki rolled his eyes. "Yeah, sure." They were on the sofas. No point in sitting on hard, wooden chairs to sip on beer, right? "What the fuck are you even thinking about?" Katsuki asked himself in exasperation. "This is awkward as fuck." He sipped on his beer. "So, I heard you broke up with Atsuo," Izuku said in between light sips, and he sounded like an adult once again. "All mature and even." Katsuki hummed. He looked over his shoulder at his dining table, at the terracotta vase, and his heart squeezed ever so slightly. "How come? You guys seem so good with each other," Izuku said lightly. "Do I really have to talk to him about this?" Alas, his big ass, freaky eyes were looking at Katsuki expectantly and there was no Shouto Todoroki, Tenyaiida or even Ochako Uraraka to pawn him off to. Katsuki sighed in defeat. "Yeah, well, it wasn't right the fit for me. Or for him." There was a pause. "Fuck this, I'm playing some music." Katsuki connected to his speaker and put on some retro playlist ears had sent him. And perhaps it was the chords coursing through the amber-hued living room at sunset with a bottle and a half of Sapporo thrumming in his veins that let him finally calm the fuck down and sink into his armchair like he actually lived here. "How come? Were you too unhappy?" Katsuki quirked a brow. "Nah, we were happy. He's a good man, but he needed to be unhappy somewhere else." Izuku looked at him disbelievingly. "Confused. I'm confused. Why do I have to tell him all of this?" Katsuki whined to himself, and wished he had rejected the invitation. "Don't you want to find out what kind of a hero you are without Izuku?" Shouto Todoroki had said to him the night Katsuki decided to change his life. To strive for total victory. Victory over life, love, and happiness. And yet, 12 months later, he was sipping beer with Izuku Midoriya on his sofa. Whatever. I was attracted to him, and I admired him, but we didn't need each other. You get it, Deku. We liked each other, but it wasn't, I dunno, passionate or fulfilling. The words came surprisingly easy to Katsuki, and it was Izuku who blushed. Izuku, who had been in a committed relationship for 10 months. Katsuki rolled his eyes. Not like that, you moron. Katsuki snapped, throwing a pillow at him. More like, Atsuo is ambitious about his job, even if he doesn't want to be. That's what he should be passionate about, and Katsuki's eyes were miles away, thinking of light touches at night when they could align their timelines, of looking at his partner's dark circles and being more concerned by the faraway look washing over his eyes. When I first started in the camps, my supervisor told me that pity doesn't last in our field. What a strange thing to say. And what a strange thing to remember, Katsuki thinks. Kachan, you okay? Katsuki takes another swig. Yeah. Long story short, no point in being in a relationship for the sakes of it, especially when it was making the thing he actually cares about difficult, you know. Katsuki watched Izuku's face carefully, as it contorted into understanding. Sympathy. And Katsuki felt bad, because he knew Izuku, symbol of heroism or not. Izuku the boy, and the boy, man, was curious. He was killing himself trying to make sense of it all. So, Katsuki sighed again. Honestly, I think I was looking for something because I thought I wanted it. Treating it as some kind of project, pushing myself. As if love is a science. That's a bullshit way of approaching things, so it just wasn't meant to be right now and with this person. Is that some kinda crime, huh? Izuku relaxed. Ah, so you were pushing yourself into a romance. Why? Katsuki chuckled. Going for total victory over life, Deku. He smiled competitively. Izuku chuckled, confused. What does that even mean? Katsuki shook his head. You wouldn't get it, and sipped. So, no romance then. Hindsight is the clearest of waters on the most beautiful beach on the Zalvanai coast. So clear that you could see the grooves of the rocks beneath the ripples, map them with your eyes. And, in hindsight, Katsuki was so firm in his pursuit of happiness, of hearing his birds sing without Izuku, without the shadow of hero Deku guiding him, that he ended up following the damn nerd anyways. Searching for what he had. What fulfilled Izuku. Not for now, but total victory is total victory, and I'm real greedy Deku. Greed on Kachan doesn't look so bad. Katsuki's eyes flicked up to meet Izuku's. I've really missed you, Kachan. Izuku beamed, brightly. And Katsuki melted, just a little bit. Do you even see Izuku as a person? Me, what makes you happy nowadays? Sent to shitty hair, Mina, Juro, dunce face, air conditioner hero, and tape face. Shitty hair. I like playing soccer with the amateur hero league. Mina, dancing. The club. Juro, listening to music. Dunce face, practicing the guitar after work. Air conditioner hero, making something with own hands, and eating it on an empty stomach. I've recently learned how to pull noodles, would you like to come over and try some? Tape face, smoking weed, blocked. Just as Katsuki is about to toss his phone away, it buzzed. Deku, thank you so much for cooking for me Kachan. I had a lot of fun, glad we can catch up. Katsuki rolled his eyes and thought, overcompensating bastard. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Me, whatever. Quick question. Katsuki looked at his screen with a new intensity. Me, would you say you're happy? Deku. Deku is typing. Yes, I have everything I need to be happy. I'm the happiest I've been in a while, actually. 1 year and 4 months since the dinner. Continental drift. It was one of those days. Izuku walked into his apartment and his skin just felt so wrong. He itched to shuck the suit jacket from his body, to claw at his scars. He checked his phone. Ochako was working late tonight, so she would likely go home to her own apartment. For the last few months, his life had gained a sort of monotony, of predictability. So, when he came home from a late night of marking tests, and he yearned to strip his layers, it wasn't out of the ordinary. It was just one of those days. And everybody has bad days. And surely they came expectedly to others as well. He reached for the suitcase displayed proudly on the pedestal by the window. Pressed his fingers into the buttons. Opened it. Within a moment his vision was clouded by flying metal sheets. Like muscle memory they contoured his body, fitting perfectly against his form. The coldness acted as a salve to his itchy skin, and he felt at home. He started towards the window. One foot on the pane, then another. And he jumped. Thrusters on at 100% capacity. Battery fully charged. The smooth, feminine, robotic voice spoke into Izuku's earpiece. He immediately went high, keen to not to be seen by anyone. Ochako didn't know he did this. No one did, actually. And, honestly, he thought, why would he tell anyone? It is a completely inconsequential fact of nature that on his bad days where he felt like he wanted to crawl out of his mottled skin, when he couldn't force a word to fall from his tongue no matter how hard he tried, he liked to steal some time with his suit, even though he wasn't using it for its purpose. He wasn't on the clock, he wasn't training the AI, he wasn't looking to save anyone, really. He merely wanted to feel a fierce breeze carting through his hair, wanted a commanding view of Musutafu at his feet, and he landed with a practiced grace. Thrusters going to sleep. Melly, the suit's AI, informed him. Hardly anyone came to this rooftop. The building was at the outskirts of the city, and no one paid it any mind. They had the cheapest offices and the drabbiest decor. But he loved it. Izuku settled on the railing, and reached into his pocket. Brought out his pack of cigarette. At the sight of the box, the gruesomely degenerated lungs on the front, at the yellow and white sticks inside, his stomach clenched. He felt nauseous, but he reached for one, picked it out, stuck it between his lips. He also reached for the lighter nestled in the paper pack, and lit. He breathed in, deep into his lungs. Far too deep. With practiced ease. He had started smoking after he received his suit, not before. Izuku Midoriya had been smoking cigarettes in secret for 8 months now. And he wasn't exactly sure why he did it. After all, it made his throat burn, made him feel nauseous. That burning feeling, of cancer seeping into the soft lining of his throat and lungs, it wasn't pleasant. Izuku has always been a visual creature, and when he smoked he did not think of anything. Anything but the image of black speckles of tar getting stuck in every nook and cranny of his throat. His saliva tried to wash it away, but he breathed in once again and replenished. Every single time he snuck out, flew on his suit, and smoked a cigarette, his mind would be startlingly blank. And he would cry, not out of sadness, or emotion, or any other real reasons. His eyes would water, for absolutely no cause. The wind cut at the trails of wetness carved on his cheek. He wondered why he would do something that makes him feel so guilty, so often. He feels guilty about keeping these things from Ochako. She often wakes up from bad dreams and immediately reaches for Izuku's hands, and whispers to him how they made her feel. And he listens to her all too gladly, and knows she would do the same to him. But he wants to be a good boyfriend. He also feels guilty that he's using the suit his classmates made with their earnest desire to make sure to fulfill his dream of saving others, of being a hero, to take a cigarette break. It makes him feel. He sniffs, and takes another inhale of the cigarette. Most importantly, he felt guilty that he was. New message. From Kachan. Izuku jerked in surprise at the loud, unexpected voice, so much so that he almost dropped the cigarette. He tucked the stick between his lips, and fished his phone out of his pocket. Kachan, are we still getting coffee tomorrow? Not getting up if I don't have to. Izuku smiled mirthlessly. Always so direct, he thought. Then, bet he'd love for me to cancel. Izuku took a drag from the cigarette, held it with his lips, and both of his thumbs toyed over the keyboard. Catch-up-chan gave Izuku Kachan withdrawals. And although they didn't meet often, it was certainly more often after Katsuki's breakup. So, Izuku's thumbs moved. Yup, let's still do it. He exhaled and a cloud of smoke obscured his vision. Izuku's shoulders relaxed, slumped forward, and he watched the skyline while he smoked. The next morning was a chilly day for autumn. Katsuki was nothing if not punctual. When Izuku arrived, only 2 minutes late, mind you, Katsuki was already waiting at the counter for his drink. Izuku walked towards the cashier. "Oi," Katsuki yelled over, "already got yours. Hurry up." "Oh." Izuku walked over. "Thanks. Sorry this doesn't really count as late, does it?" "You're fucking late," Katsuki barked. Izuku scoffed. "Come on, Kachan, 2 minutes is hardly considered late." Katsuki rolled his eyes. "Late enough to make sure I'd pay for your coffee, you broke bastard." "Next one's on you," he barked. Eyes squinted into angry slits. But no bite, Izuku thought. "Of course, Kachan, I'll treat you to some meat. Next time," Izuku thought pleasantly. Katsuki had always been a step too far, that was just the reality of things. So, when he stood beside Izuku, within reach, Izuku appreciated it with a special sort of fondness. They collected Izuku's coffee and Katsuki's tea, and settled into one of the booths. "So, Kachan, how are things?" Izuku asked pleasantly. "They're fine. Really? Is that it?" Izuku's smile begged to falter, but he held the corners of his lips up with significant effort. "And how's the agency?" "Good." He sounded distracted. Izuku watched him more carefully. Red eyes tracked on himself, darting from Izuku's hair to his brows, to his lips, then his shoulders, his attire, back to his hair. Izuku stiffened. "You look fucking terrible," Izuku gasped, aghast. I don't. That's so rude, Kachan." Izuku snapped. He turned to the window and searched the translucent reflection for something out of the ordinary. "Right." But Katsuki did not seem to be convinced. The silence returned. Izuku wondered if all of Katsuki's conversations, with Shouto, or Kirishima, heck even Kaminari or Shiro, went along these lines. Katsuki was too quiet and thoughtful, Izuku was sure of it. "Come on, Kachan." Izuku finally whined, "Are you sure everything is okay?" And that accusation seemed to awaken the irritated Kachan that Izuku was so acquainted with. "Ha, are you okay, you dipshit? You look stressed as fuck, as if you had not slept. Not eaten. Spent hours last night smoking on a rooftop. Aren't comfortable in your skin." Izuku's eyes widened. Of course, Katsuki was one of the smartest people Izuku had ever met. Teaching a hero course high schoolers really cemented understanding. It made Izuku realize just how slowly the average 15 to 18-year-old processed information compared to Izuku's memory of Katsuki. Of course, he'd be able to tell. "It's just one of those days." Izuku hummed, and took a sip of his coffee, some kind of cappuccino or. "It's a flat white, right? No need to question it. So, how are the brats? Giving you more trouble than usual or something?" And Izuku slumped, falling back into his easy smile. "They're great." And the coffee sank closer and closer towards the bottom. It was nice, spending time with Kachan. It made Izuku feel privileged. The room called Kachan. Oh, what states the room has been through over the years. In middle school it might have ceased to exist save for a few tiles on the floor and some crushed up remnants of walls, any infrastructure maintained by mean words and harsh shoves. Because even bad interaction was interaction. Then the room grew into a mansion, and became lavishly decorated after the war. But the furniture began to disappear, as did the curtains and the carpet, and then the tables and the chair. Now, Izuku thought pleasantly, it was a lovely room. As lovely as his room for Kirishima, or Shiro, or Mina. Izuku felt displeased all of a sudden, and pushed the thought away. The coffee date had come to an end and now they walked out onto the street. There was hardly anyone there. It was nice catching up, Kachan. Izuku forced through his teeth, as brightly as possible. Katsuki stared at him, deadpan, and Izuku was certain he would walk away without saying another word. In fact, his body did turn, making to leave. Then, stopped still. "You wanna come on a mission with me?" Izuku was startled. "What?" Katsuki turned completely towards him. "I said, I've been asked to come on a mission. By some American firm. You know their number 5 hero. Mr. Wright." Izuku gasped. "Oh my god, Mr. Wright. Of course I know him. He had the fight against the bear monster, right? Right. Only a few days after his debut. He's so young, couldn't be more than 23. And his quirk, well, actually, I don't even know what it is, but looks like some sort of energy. Jesus Christ, just shut up. Katsuki knocked Izuku's hand away from his chin, which jolted him awake. When was the last time Kachan touched me? Izuku clamped his mouth shut. Like a stupid fish. I dunno why he wants me. But he asked for a loan of 2 weeks. School is going on half-term break, right? So, just come with. It's far though. The mission is in Mexico and it's pretty dangerous the way he described it to me. He called you directly. Katsuki met Izuku's wide, curious gaze with evenness. Yeah, he wouldn't tell me much about the mission either. And I know a few other international heroes are going to be involved. Izuku's skin thrummed with a sort of energy, but his mind was even. Weighing his options. I don't know, Kachan, 2 weeks is a long time, and Mexico is so far. I should discuss with O. Yeah, and the mission is dangerous to boot. Loads of reasons to stay the fuck here. But I've been called for a damn reason, so I need to figure out why. Would be better if I had someone I could trust with me. Katsuki said the words as if they meant nothing to him. Not Shouto, or Kirishima, or Mina, or Kaminari, or Shiro, or Iida. But Izuku stopped still. The inconsequential platitude had just upgraded the carpet and changed all the linens in the room called Kachan. Izuku perked, eyes taking a new, energetic shine. He fisted his hand. Okay, Kachan, I'll come. Agency Dynamite splurged for very good seats on the long flight from Tokyo to Puerto Cielo, the coastal city along the Pacific Ocean, south of Puerto Vallarta. It was a vibrant, mid-sized city in Mexico known for its sweeping cliffside views, colorful colonial architecture, and bustling artisan markets. The city thrives on tourism, fishing, and local textile production. It's also famous for an annual kite festival, Kachan, where participants from all over. Jesus, I fucking get it. Shut up, Katsuki grumbled. Izuku dragged his eyes away from the brochure and to his travel companion. They were standing under the shade outside the airport, and Katsuki had long ago shucked his thick, black hoodie for a baggy, cotton button-up. It's so hot. Izuku relished at the wind that pushed against his moist nape, and carted through his hair. We're not here as tourists. Katsuki pinned Izuku with a deadpan stare, and Izuku bristled. I know that, Kachan. Izuku snapped, but I hardly get to travel. And it's not like I'm making plans, I'm just reading up on it, is all. Katsuki stared for a second longer, his stare indecipherable. Then, he sighed and walked closer to Izuku, pushing his sunglasses on his forehead. Leaning closer to the brochure. Even sweaty in the muggy air, Katsuki smelled nice. Yeah, it's not bad looking, but you see here. He pointed to a rudimentary map of the city, nothing, mid-size, about it. The city is pea-sized compared to Tokyo. Katsuki dragged his finger to the very edge of the illustration. We're going to El Refugio. See, it's completely secluded, about 50 kilometers away from Puerto Cielo, and dab along the edges of the Sierra Madre mountain range. Izuku absorbed this information with a steely gaze. Difficult terrain. That's right. Izuku stared down at the map. By the way, Izuku looked up. Who's picking us up? Katsuki's frown deepened, and brows scrunched in irritation. Mr. Fucking Wrong. Izuku chuckled fondly. Oh, they're sending the American number 5. Wow. Talk about the VIP treatment, right, Kachan? Katsuki turned his unenthused glare back to Izuku. Why are you getting excited? He's the one who invited us onto the mission, he ought to pick us up. Katsuki glanced at his watch, and he should be on time. In fact, Mr. Wright would not be pulling up to the airport collection terminal for another 15 minutes. Ah, there you are. My Japanese heroes. He screamed far too loudly, and Katsuki's sneer deepened. Izuku was concerned. He's overstimulated. Katsuki did not say anything, only marched up to the shabby car and put his suitcase in the trunk. Hello. It's very nice to meet you. Izuku greeted, also walking over. Thank you for having us. Katsuki was getting impatient, for he marched up to Izuku, snatched his suitcase, and threw it in the trunk beside his own. Then made his way to the passenger seat. Mr. Wright. Eli Merritt, age 23, debuted in a low-key fight with a gang of bank robbers at 17, but found larger fame when 2 months later he took down the Bear Monster, an infamous villain who had been terrorized those at the foot of the southern Appalachian Mountains. Single-handedly. Quirk. Unknown. A closely guarded state secret. The car was silent. Charged. Mr. Wright broke it. I wasn't that. Yeah, Katsuki snapped. You were that late. Izuku winced from the backseat, and wondered how he could calm Katsuki down. Eli broke into peals of bright chuckles. Come on, you're being dramatic. Eli retorted, and before Katsuki could respond he continued, wow, I always suspected it, but Japanese heroes sure are princesses. Sorry I couldn't bring the carriage on time, Your Highness. No, oh no. Izuku sat up straight. Any moment now. From the crack between the 2 front seats, Izuku saw Katsuki turn to the driver with a strained, twitching, mean grin. It's always the fuckers that hate Japanese heroes that seem to know all about us, huh? What, you some kind of fan? That why you invited us? Eli turned towards Katsuki, and Izuku wondered if that was safe. You're supposed to be driving. Sit down, old man. And no one can stand American anything. So, you better watch your mouth, little kid. Katsuki spat, cuttingly. Eli turned back to the road, thank God, with hearty laughter. Izuku watched the 2 heroes, bona fide heroes, bounce off each other, and struggled to join in the conversation. You wanna hear about the mission or not, bro? Izuku perked, and leaned closer. Katsuki fell into his seat with a defeated huff. Waved his hand as if to you, go on, then. Well, there is a coalition of heroes here with us. We have Magnet and Dreamweaver from Europe, Aura from my firm, Bloom and Plant Whisperer, stupid name, Katsuki whispered under his breath, from Canada. And local heroes Pulso, Mutar, and Hiccup. And Dynamite and Deku of course. He turned over his shoulder and threw a disarming smile towards Izuku. Izuku smiled back, but there was a pit in his stomach. I don't exactly fit into the list. He buried the thought. You guys know about Akis? Eli asked. Yes, Katsuki said. No, Izuku, at the same time. The pit grew deeper, more insidious. Man, you heroes over there sure are sheltered. I'll explain. Akis, or Applied Knowledge for Universal Stability, is an international corporate firm. They brand themselves as a crisis management group, but we in the States consider them a political adversary, tittering on being a terrorist organization. He said, far too brightly, they wanna diffuse lessons from your war to other countries. I'm sure the Japanese haven't forgotten about just how close we were to global meltdown, but to the majority it was something they watched in the news that ended up sorting itself out, no offense. Akis has a confusing ideology. Their end goal might not be so bad, but to bring it forth they believe we need to have true, widespread upheaval. And would you be surprised, the way to do that is through violence. Same new story, building on the back of an old one. Izuku's eyes widened as he listened. They came to a jerky stop at a red light. Eli turned to Izuku. You may have changed attitudes at home, but the singularity is here to stay. The strong quirks, here to stay. This is all very relevant to our mission. They were staying at a nice compound on the eastern outskirts of the city. The building was bright, airy, had great ventilation, and colorful windows. Izuku should have taken some time to admire the wooden walls, the beautiful artwork hung throughout, but his eyes were steely and determined as he and Katsuki walked towards the briefing room. I've got the Dynamite and Deku. Eli introduced. There were 8 heroes wearing casual clothes sitting at a round table, and what looked like a commander, an older woman, wearing a linen suit, standing at the front. Dynamite, Deku, it's good to meet you. The commander greeted them firmly, gesturing to the empty seats. My name is Carolina, I am the mission coordinator. Izuku smiled. Thank you for having us. Some looks were exchanged across the table. Carolina sighed. You all better behave. She snapped at the other heroes, pinning them each with a stern glare. This is not a celebrity meet and greet, let's be professionals. Suddenly, Izuku burned bright red. I totally missed it. All the heroes, of various ages, backgrounds and identities, were practically buzzing with excitement. Flushed red, eyes wide and glistening with excitement. Izuku had seen these expressions before, painted on the faces of his starstruck students. Staring at him, Katsuki slumped into his seat. We gonna talk about the mission, or what? I don't even know what's going on and neither does Deku. Izuku was thankful for Katsuki and the sternness that cut through the awkwardness of being so looked at. Yes, thank you Dynamite. Caroline turned back to the standing map behind her. I'm sure you all know about Akis, may have even faced some of their agents in your home nations. Yup, tell me about it, Uhu. Katsuki and Izuku remained silent, though Izuku did turn to him. Katsuki's eyes were thinking. Well, we have intel of their involvement in El Refugio, a very small, very remote town to the east of here. Population, 20,000. Caroline reached for the bottom of the map and flicked to the next page, revealing an image of an attractive, if a bit misshapen, daisy yellow building, 3 stories and quite large. Surrounded by a fence of pine trees. This is Manantial Alegre, our Happy Spring Primary School. Izuku's heart dropped. Some of you may be aware that there has been a breakthrough in the case of Georgia Mallory's disappearance. Even if you do, Mr. Wright will give us a brief. Eli stood up, and made a big show of clearing his throat. During the car ride and even walking into the briefing room, Izuku had thought that his curly golden brown hair, his loosely buttoned linen shirt, and his quick-to-smile expressions made Mr. Wright look quite young. Jovial. But as he straightened and addressed the room of heroes, Izuku found that he could look quite serious, too. The disappearance of Georgia Mallory is a very high-profile case for the U.S. Intelligence Service. Georgie would be 7 years old now, and she was born with a singularity-like quirk, called nuclear. I'm sure all of you intelligent boys and girls can guess what that entails. It's not like she can shoot off bombs from her fingers, though. Her quirk is better described as atomic disturbance. I'm sure if she were to grow up and develop it, it could evolve into something like energy generation, thermal emission, nuclear fission, then fusion. Then, yeah, maybe bombs too. And radiation control, doesn't that sound peachy? Izuku tensed all over. He turned to Kacchan, and Kacchan was already looking at him. Concerned. Yes, thank you Mr. Wright. Eli sat down. His seat was next to Katsuki's. We have had a recent breakthrough in the case. Carolina flicked to the next page of the presentation, and it was a world map with pins embedded at various points. She pointed at one, Camilla Morales. Then another, Sophie Dubois. Then another, Lars Eriksson Nystrom. Then another, Arjun Prakash. Then another, Mei Zhang. Then another, Fatima El Hassan. Then another, Adebayo Olusegun. With each, Izuku's heart clenched. There were far more pins that went unaddressed. Because the disappearances are so geographically distributed, no one has been able to connect them. But every single one of these names belong to children with singularity-like quirks. Who have disappeared? Izuku's fingers shook. Katsuki's knees knocked into his. Izuku pushed back, and left his lodged against the others. To stabilize. What's the school got to do with it? Katsuki asked, strong and firm. Carolina turned to the group. We have intel that some members of Akis can be linked to the school, have been found visiting. They are the school. It's completely funded by private investment, but you can't track the IP to any credible source of investment. We have strong reason to believe that while the kids may not be here, there is some information or data center being kept there. It's remote enough, good connections to the Pacific. And, after all, it is a school for young children. Katsuki nodded. What's the plan? Katsuki and Izuku walked side by side, Katsuki in full suit, Izuku in head-to-toe gear. I can't believe Mei made it so that the suit has temperature control. Izuku gushed. I don't feel hot at all, even though I am wearing so much. The sun was nowhere near as high or as strong as it had been a few hours ago. Katsuki met Izuku's wide, dazzled eyes with a fierce exasperation, mixed with more than a touch of irritation. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Katsuki let out, words dripping with contempt. Izuku turned to him and winced. Katsuki's face was coated with sweat, and even though he wasn't wearing his winter uniform, he had gloves on that reached halfway up his bicep, and Izuku could just tell his black high-neck tank was absorbing every bit of the sunlight. Izuku grinned. Just hang in there, Kacchan. Izuku offered with a clenched fist of determination and a 1,000-watt smile. You're going to be thankful you're so sweaty when we need to fight. How about I hang you instead? Haha, so funny. I'm not joking. Oh. They continued down the path carved amongst the grove of pine trees through the charming little village of El Refugio. Someone tapped Katsuki's left shoulder, and Katsuki turned around. He found no one there. Izuku saw Eli, Mr. Right, in his head-to-toe black uniform, snake around Katsuki's right and walk ahead. Oh no, Katsuki's sneer became even more fierce. Before he could stampede over to the younger boy, Izuku snaked a hand around Katsuki's waist and pulled him back. Let go of me right the fuck now. I'm gonna kill that stupid, smug son of a Kachan. He's just trying to rile you up. Izuku was strong, even without his suit, so he kept his grip on Katsuki's jostling form and dragged him along the path to Manatial Allegre. They reached the school in no time. The flaking yellow paint did nothing to take the charm away from the building. The brightly colored emerald green window shutters complemented it, even. Beautiful, secluded. What do you think of the plan, huh? Katsuki asked Izuku in a low voice. All hints of playfulness gone. Izuku let his apprehensions roll off his tongue. Well, I don't know how smart it is to just go in and start asking the headmaster questions in full hero gear. 10 heroes in tow. Internationals at that. Sure, Izuku thought, the local heroes would be the ones talking. But Izuku looked around. Everyone is here, the whole team, waiting outside the school. Katsuki hummed in thought. It's like a battle cry. I think, Katsuki said. And he was lost in thought. Izuku jerked upright. Battle cry. Battle cry. What are the words? What is this? What is happening right now? Do you think Carolina is trying to provoke them into a fight? Why else handpick so many amazing heroes from all over the world? And make them suit up? An ambush. Katsuki turned to Izuku abruptly. Eyes wide and flittering. Are the kids being kept here? Izuku leaned closer, making sure to not be overheard by their teammates. Carolina said data centers. Why bring Mr. Right and Dynamite all the way here to flush out a data center? And then bring us all to the site for a reconnaissance mission. Makes no sense. Unless they want to intimidate Akkas and make them jump the gun and call a lockdown. Or even worse, antagonize the kids. Izuku's eyes widened. If his heart was even, his mind was clear, and he could see every thread of happenstance laid out perfectly in front of him. Suddenly, this beautiful clearing in a forest of pine, with the commanding Sierra Madre mountain chain looming over them, under the golden light of sunset. This was the only place that existed in the world. And something, Kachan, Izuku hissed in a tense whisper, something is about to go very, very wrong. Katsuki stepped back and looked around. At the heroes waiting idly. Pulso, Mutar and Hiccup were already inside. Had been for a few minutes now. Tell me what we should do, Kachan. The pieces are already in motion. Where do we go from here, Deku? Katsuki asked, his voice taut. Izuku flinched. I don't know, what do you? Katsuki snapped towards him with an impatient quirk of brow. If you don't know, then think, moron. Katsuki hissed, deathly silent. The threads were disciplining, slipping through Izuku's fingers. Maybe we loop in Mr. Right. How would you approach it with your students, huh? Izuku latched onto that. Well, the thread became clearer. He didn't even realize he had pressed his gloved fingers against his lips until Katsuki knocked them out of the way. Just think aloud, Deku. Then we can make sense of it. Okay, let's think of what could go wrong. We could have a hostile response from Akkas, especially if they're in the school right now. They could activate immediate defensive measures. They must have contingency plans, so there's absolutely no grounds to think they might just let us snoop with no retaliation. We've played our hand. Then the children could also be used as collateral and escalate the situation with their quirks if they feel threatened. We don't know how they've been treated, especially if they have volatile quirks. We need to account for psychological trauma. The best immediate actions, if I were a teacher, I would say to establish a clear chain of command, get in touch with Caroline as soon as possible. But, Izuku paused. That's not the right thing to do. Does this make even a lick of sense? She broke the chain. Katsuki started. From the get-go, the chain of command has been flawed, because the heroes weren't looped into the stakes. That everything you said could happen. This is a spotty mission. Izuku turned his mind back to his threads, now clearer than ever. We have to assume that ACUS operatives have been alarmed already. No point in minimizing visibility. The children inside, we can't do anything about. The townspeople should be shielded by the grove of trees, but we should evacuate them as a point of priority. And that leaves one thing. What, Deku? We need to prepare for escalation. Tell me what to do. Izuku touched his intercom. Carolina, we need to evacuate the village. Can you make that happen with the local police? The receiving end was static for a moment. Then, why, has something happened? This would not do. Carolina. Izuku started, and his tone even surprised himself. A confidence that he had never had even as a teenager, housing one for all within his bones. The voice of a man groaned, "You need to trust me. That's why I'm a part of the mission." Another spell of static. Done, Deku. Izuku turned to Katsuki. We need to rally the heroes. Izuku moved with a tenseness and looseness all at once. His voice did not shake, and his heart did not stutter as he explained the situation to the other heroes. But there was an itching at the back of his brain, a sort of weight in his stomach that told him this is inevitable. An instinct forged at the heart of war, living on over 10 years later. What do we? But Dreamweaver was cut short. The ground quaked. Inevitable. So, when Katsuki and Izuku looked at each other, they were not startled or alarmed. But, ready, Kachan. Fuck yeah. Izuku turned to the heroes, their brows quivering at the turn of events. Hey, Izuku shot them a competitive, but bright grin. We're prepared. Just think how scared you would have been if this happened a couple minutes ago. He offered, brightly. Magnet, a young girl who could not have been more than 20 years old, smiled shakily at Izuku, and stood straight, even as the ground slid beneath her feet. Izuku faced the school. It happened in an instant. A loud, cracking sound echoed. It thrusted into the heroes standing outside, and brushed through the trees like a fierce wind. It took only a second for the walls to tremble. Followed by a bone-chilling screech, a sharp, organic sound of something large growing at terrifying speed, of breaking everything in its path. Izuku searched in his memory, thundered through the threads. The kids' quirks. Which one? With a thunderous crash, a massive bone-like structure burst through the roof of the school, splintering the tiles, and sending shards of debris flying. The air was filled with a sickening crackling sound, as more and more bone formations erupted through the walls. They were colossal, twisted, jagged, and branching out to unnatural lengths. Unnatural girth as well. Kachan. Izuku shouted, first one of the heroes to spring into action. They all turned to him, but Izuku looked to Katsuki. It's Camilla Morales, the bone bloomer. Katsuki's eyes widened in understanding. Fuck's sake. It just had to be her, didn't it? Aura, the older American hero, turned to the boys. Can't we just blast it all to dust? Izuku frowned. This is worst-case scenario. Those are her bones, and they'll keep blooming exponentially, taking down everything in its path. But the issue is, another rumble, and the ground was unsteady. Izuku turned his thrusters on. Is that if you hurt those bones, you hurt her? They know we won't do that. And if we hurt Camilla, then she might just get worse and take even more down. It's not an option. Yo. Izuku turned to the voice. It belonged to Eli. It's not just her. It's Lars Eriksson too. Izuku searched his threads. Lars. Katsuki jolted beside him. The shadow demon quirk. Aha. The ground began splintering. Melee. Initiate float. Izuku commanded. He turned back to the scene. Sure enough, you could see dark shadows spilling out of every splinter of bone, out of every open window, crawling up the bone structure which just kept blooming. Each twist and turn seemed to form a new, grotesque branch, jutting from the roof, the windows, and now towards them. There will be others, Izuku shouted. What do we go? Magnet turned to Izuku. What are your orders? Izuku did not have even a second to comprehend the weight of the task, or any personal feelings he may have towards it. only gripped his threads and pulled his goal closer. We act fast. We need a team to excavate the children. Eli stepped in. Plant Whisperer, Bloom, Aura, you go inside, find Pulso, Mutar and Hiccup. Get it done. Izuku turned to the remaining. Right, Magnet, and Dreamweaver, you're on the shadows. It's going to be tricky. Each shadow is autonomous, driven by Lars's emotions, not his commands. Be careful. Right, fine, but only 2 people on the Bone Bloomer. Is that smart? Mr. Wright asked, unconvinced. Not even a second of hesitation. Of course, damn right it is. Mr. Wright nodded, and left. Katsuki and Izuku immediately blasted themselves towards the school roof. The web of bones was becoming more and more intricate. What's the plan? Izuku asked. Melly, stay still. Katsuki stopped beside him, his palms letting out small bursts of energy. The sky was darkening now. We can't hit the bone. Katsuki said, we need to find Camilla and get her to stop. We stabilize the kid, then we neutralize the quirk. Easy. Katsuki grinned manically, and Izuku was lost for a moment, tethered and lost all at once, which means we gotta go through the bone web, right Deku? And as soon as possible. Longer we wait the more bones we have. Right, Kachan. But how? Right, it has to be you. It has to be me. Katsuki said at the same time. You're too bulky with the suit, I can use smaller explosions to propel yourself through the maze. But I need you to use synthetic black whip to hang onto me, to get a bird's eye view and tug me where I need to go, otherwise I won't be quick enough. Melly, status on black whip. 100% capacity, Deku. Okay, go. The electric black tendrils of energy uncurled from Izuku's gauntlets and wrapped around Katsuki's slight waist. Izuku tugged and thought, yes, secured. They flew together to the very top. And Katsuki let himself fall. Izuku didn't dare to tear his eyes away as Katsuki descended into the maze of gigantic, thrusting bones. Left, then right, then left. If it weren't for the brilliant orange glow of his hands and feet, then Izuku might not have been able to follow Katsuki's movements. But, as Katsuki went deeper, so did Izuku. He tugged when he needed to. There, Katsuki narrowly missed the brand new jutting of a column of bone. Again, another splinter. Katsuki fell deeper and deeper. Melly, take care of my surroundings. Of course. While Izuku could tell the ground was still rumbling, that perhaps Eli and Dreamweaver and Magnet were fighting tooth and nail against the shadows, Katsuki and Izuku's world was silent and dark, the only sound being Katsuki's occasional yelps and sharp inhales as he navigated the maze. And Izuku, too, was quiet. The only sound he made was that of breathing in and out, regularly. His mind was startlingly clear. More than it had been in a long, long time. Eyes, sharp, looking. They fought as one. In this calm, quiet space. Hallowed. Quirks are so beautiful, Izuku could not help but think, eyes tracking the small trails of orange sparks beneath him. The thought disrupted his even flow of his breath. It hitched. When Katsuki blasted, Izuku tugged, and felt the pressure of Katsuki's descent against the gauntlet wrapped around his wrist pleasantly. An eternity later, that ended all too soon. Deku, a whisper, smoothly hitting his ear canal directly from his intercom. Kachan, Izuku whispered right back, not daring to break his trance, what's wrong? I see her. Izuku's heart clenched. We didn't think this far. Izuku realized with a start. Melly, status of Black Whip. Black Whip at 73% capacity. Melly, find a way to get Black outside of the bone web. Of course, Deku. Don't worry, Kachan, I'll sort it out. Melly, call Mr. Right. Calling Mr. Right. It rung, then again. And finally. Yo, Deku, give me a status update. Izuku snapped. We got the locals, Bloom and Plant Whisperer out with the kids. Kids being dosed with sleeping serum now. All hands on the shadows, but it's going to be light work with everyone here. You need backup with the Bone Bloomer. Izuku watched Katsuki's explosions grow fainter and fainter. No, we have it handled from inside. But I have Black Whip coming out from the roof. I need you to bring a sleeping serum to it. You got it, boss. Izuku waited patiently, One hand stretched below, his shadow still gripping Katsuki's waist, and the other pointed high towards the sky, waiting for Eli to bring the serum. 2 silent minutes later, Izuku felt his left wrist tug. The serum. Melly, bring the serum to me. The bone maze was growing denser and denser. It was almost completely dark, only the blue glow forms his suit lighting his surroundings. But, Izuku concentrated, and let the second tendril of Black Whip follow its brother towards Katsuki, as quickly as possible. Kachan. Izuku screamed into his intercom, I'm sending you a sleeping serum. Behind you. A moment of silence. Is he? Kachan. Louder. Tot, are you okay? Status update. More silence. I said status update, Dynamite. Bringing out the government name, huh? Came a smooth voice in his ear. Izuku sagged. You're okay. What's going on? Take the. Not talkin'. It. Just gimme a minute. WH. Look, I gotta focus. So just give me a damn minute, Izuku. Izuku's mouth clamped shut. He navigated towards a clearing in the bone web, and waited. It couldn't have been 4 minutes later that his intercom rang again. It's right. What's going on? We got all the kids accounted for except Camilla. All threats neutralized, except the fucking bone maze. Do y'all need help? Izuku did not hesitate. No support needed, just give us a minute. There was a noise of frustration, and Izuku bristled. Just trust me, okay? And Izuku wondered when had he ever sounded so confident. Certainly not in romance, and not even with his students. But where he was, snapping at the number 5 from the land of heroes. Come on Kachan, 1 more minute, and it happened. The bone fractured, a hairline crack grew, and grew. Emboldened. Is it going to collapse? But before Izuku could panic, it simply disintegrated. A cloud of white dust. Snow in Mexico. The night sky greeted Izuku like a hug. Open and bright. He looked down and spied a faint orange glow. Izuku squinted. There was Explosion Hero. Dynamite, climbing higher and higher. A little girl with black hair had her arms wrapped around his neck and legs around his waist, tangled with Black Whip. Awake. Izuku jerked his wrist and pulled them closer, quicker. He grinned, both sets of teeth showing in a proud display. Win to save. Katsuki smiled back, manically. Save to win. A 2-week mission was wrapped up in 3 days. Izuku had heard. 2 weeks, leave Katsuki's mouth on an empty pavement in Musudafu in front of a coffee shop, and he had winced. But now, Izuku wondered what might have happened if he stayed longer. I hardly know the team. But most were flying out the next morning, as was Katsuki and Izuku. Still, they found themselves at El Ultimo Trago, a shabby cantina nestled along the edge of Playa del Sol, the picturesque beach along Puerto Cielo. Sure, it was slightly ramshackle, but that didn't take away from the beauty of the salty ocean breeze circulating throughout. Izuku appreciated the weathered wooden sign that hung from an angle above the entrance, the painted letters faded by the relentless sun and salty air. He appreciated the ever-present rolling sounds of waves, the interior of aged stucco and peeling turquoise paint, adorned with strings of colorful papel picado. Most of all he appreciated a band, and the gentle strumming of guitars that soothed Izuku. And, of course, he admired the relaxed vibe at their large table, where all the heroes of El Refugio gathered to celebrate their win. Mission report. No casualties. No injuries. 15 children rescued and to be transferred to Japan for quirk counseling. And this round, Aura, or better known as Aurora Knowles of the States, slammed a tray of mezcal onto the table, goes to our fierce Commander Deku. Izuku flushed deep crimson, and hid his face behind waving palms, a practiced routine that he had not found himself dancing to in years. But clearly, he hasn't completely grown out of his embarrassment. Huzzah! Cheers! Whoop, whoop. Katsuki, who sat beside him, leaned over the table and grabbed 2 shots. Grab one for me too, would-ya na might? Eli asked from beside Katsuki. Katsuki looked over his shoulders and glared at Mr. Wright disbelievingly. Oh, maybe when pigs fly, you damn nobody. Get your own. Katsuki settled back down, and handed a shot to Izuku. I see, do I need to save the world to get a little bit of princess treatment? Izuku winced. He sure loves riling Kachan up. Katsuki sputtered angrily, pushed to a point of rage that he could not utter a single expletive even if he tried. Izuku could not help but think that it's a shame. He liked Eli well enough, but it was as obvious as day and night, as obvious as the sun rising in the east and setting in the west, that the boy was hopelessly incompatible with Katsuki. Izuku leaned over and grabbed a shot, passing it over to Eli. "Thanks, Deku." He grinned charmingly. Even surrounded by so many people, so many cool, interesting heroes, that seemed to adore and respect Izuku. Izuku was wide-eyed and so energetic that his motor mouth was running at 1,000,000 miles per hour. And he leaned towards Katsuki. Everyone's quirk was just so amazing, right Kachan? Right. Katsuki shoved a palm at Izuku's face and pushed half-heartedly. He flushed and laughed all at once against Katsuki's skin. Course they were all cool. I mean, Dreamweaver can cause hallucinations, but it's more sophisticated than Kami's. Apparently it's almost impossible to tell if you're in one of her dreams or not. Right, and then there's Magnet. Man, I'm glad she didn't become a villain. The power to charge metals sounds good enough as it is, but the fact that she can get down to the molecular level is crazy. Can you imagine what she could do with your blood? I wonder if she's thought of that. Why would she ever need to use that? Anyways, Bloom is similar to Shiozaki, but if Shiozaki combined with Kanoko. To be able to make anything grow and bloom, that's another quirk you couldn't want in a villain, am I right Kachan? I heard she was able to put all the kids to sleep under the school. It's useful as fuck. Izuku suddenly realized that he had speaking for a long time, and that it was probably quite inconsiderate. I'm sorry, I'm speaking so much. Izuku blamed the alcohol, the leftover adrenaline, the beautiful guitar and pipes. Keep talking, idiot, I don't care. Izuku looked at Katsuki carefully and found him close, watching patiently. Katsuki was honest to a boot, whether through his words or his expressions, so when Izuku found nothing to suggest Katsuki was displeased, he decided to keep speaking as much as his heart desired. A sea breeze traveled through the open-plan cantina, and it ruffled the loose linen shirt Katsuki was wearing, almost identical to the one Izuku was wearing. Except Katsuki wore a black, winding chain made out of a thick thread, and it complemented his coloring. So what? Izuku asked. The tropics suited Kachan, Izuku thought. Izuku swallowed and continued. I still haven't figured out Eli's quirk though. Speak the devil's name. Eli poked into the conversation from behind Katsuki's shoulders. Katsuki's brow twitched. Ah, well, it is a state secret. He tapped his nose mischievously, and Katsuki elbowed his stomach. But I'm, super drunk, so I'll tell you. And, immediately, Izuku was transformed into a fanboy. Izuku pressed a palm against Katsuki's chest instinctively and pushed him back against his chair, so that he could look at Eli directly. MMF. Katsuki grunted. So, what do you, he pointed at Izuku, and you, then Katsuki, think my quirk is? Oh, Izuku straightened. Something to do with energy expulsion. Eli leaned closer, his face quite close to Katsuki's, but he kept his gaze tracked on Izuku, completely ignoring the fiery. Izuku fought a wince. Bingo. Well, the quirk is called energy transfer. With my left hand, he grabbed a shot glass. I can grab anything that has energy. It used to be stuff like fuel when I was a kid. Now this shot glass will do. Remember, even atoms have power. Izuku's eyes widened in amazement. The teenager that lived within him, obsessed with quirks, preened. But, so did the teacher that observed and assessed quirks all day. Katsuki leaned forward and glared at the shot glass, fingers stroking his chin in interest. I can take this energy and convert it into whatever form I want with my right hand. He brought his right hand forth, whether that's sound, his hand emitted a loud screech, light, then a burst of white light, or something powerful, like explosions. And Izuku watched familiar orange sparks fly from the skin of his palm. The amber glow illuminated the sharp planes of Katsuki's face. And for a moment Izuku was stunned by just how adult Katsuki looked. Izuku also wondered if Katsuki would be angry at someone pretending to use his quirk. He knew exactly how much Monoma pissed him off. But Katsuki, his eyes widened, His brilliant red pupils reflected the minuscule sparks, and it made them look like they glowed. Izuku felt his breath catch in his lungs. Eli closed both palms and the show was over. Izuku leaned back and cleared his throat. Maybe I've drunk too much. So that's why you're called Mr. Right. Because it comes out of your right hand. Eli laughed sheepishly. Yeah. Believe me, Deku, if I could turn back time and change that I really would. No one knows why I've gone with it because the government won't let me tell. He pouted, and looked so very boyish. Katsuki barked out a laugh. A howl pulled straight from his chest. He schooled his face into Hollywood smile, overstretched and uncanny. One hand over his heart and one hand reaching out to nobody. When you have two options, always choose Mr. Right. Katsuki said in a schooled, deep voice. Mocking. Izuku sputtered on his water, and began coughing and laughing all at once. His shoulders bouncing in mirth. Hey, stop, Eli whined, and suddenly he seemed like all the 23 years he had under his belt. Katsuki laughed, throwing his head back. At least I know you've seen my advert. Eli grumbled. The rest of the night went by pleasantly. Very much so. Izuku drank more than he had ever before, but felt completely lightheaded. He asked Magnet about the applications of her quirk, asked if she had ever considered it on blood, and she said, yes, and that it makes crime scenes really easy to clean up. Izuku had laughed, but then realized, oh, she's being serious. He enjoyed the music, and laughed with joy when Mutar pulled him into a sorry excuse for a tango, and he had stumbled over his feet. He did not bother to check his phone for any messages. The sliver of metal may as well have not existed in that dimly lit, seaside cantina. He didn't want the night to end. So, there he was, at 3 a.m., waiting at the bar for what he promised himself would be the final round of drinks. Izuku collected the tray of mezcal and turned, searching the bar for Katsuki. Aha! He spied a head of spikes poking above the crowd. Izuku walked over, snaking through the maze of tables and benches. The crowd parted, and he noticed that Eli was beside him. Ah, better go play peacemaker. Izuku thought with a huff. Eli was grinning teasingly, which meant Katsuki was merely seconds away from Explo. Eli hooked a finger under Katsuki's chin, tilted up, and pushed in with a youthful force, pressing his closed lips against Katsuki's. Katsuki was still, and Eli smiled even as he pulled back an inch, then dove right back in. Izuku stopped still, mouth open. What? The next time Eli pulled back something shook Izuku even more. Katsuki's lips tilted into a menacing grin. He brushed his nose against Eli's, tilted to the side, and pushed in. Gently, firmly, smoothly, roughly. Eli's kiss had been playful but Katsuki's. Kachan rocked gently into him, lips still smiling, and kissed him passionately. It was so different to how he had kissed Atsuo. How Izuku kisses Ochako. Those kisses had been all gentle and soft and pliable, all Izuku knew. Even from the distance Izuku could see the tip of Katsuki's tongue dart out, and Eli completely melt against him. How could a kiss between two incompatible people look so? Izuku took the shots all for himself and turned away. And checked his phone for the time. 1 year 6 months since the dinner. And the birds are mute. Katsuki didn't mind cooking for his friends, although you should not be telling them that. Katsuki. Mina whined, can I help? She poked into the kitchen. Katsuki did not even grace her with a glance of acknowledgement. No, but it's taking so long. She whined. Then order takeout. HMPH. Ajiro came to the rescue and pulled her away. Katsuki was making katsu curry, which meant frying 7 pork cutlets for his 6 guests. Shiro, Ajiro, Juro, Mina, Denki, Shouto. That's why he liked cooking dinner for his friends secretly, not because he wanted to fill their bellies or make sure they eat at least a single vegetable this week, but because for an hour or two Katsuki could think about measurements and cooking times and the clock, and not whatever else is on his mind. Which is nothing, of course. It took 15 more minutes for Katsuki to serve the piping hot food and deliver the plates into the living room. Katsuki's dining table only had 4 seats. And he really should be annoyed that they were eating on his expensive-ass lounge set. You spill something and you pay for it, morons. Katsuki had warned. But something about seeing his home overspilling with people, eating the food he cooked. Yeah, he dug in. So, how was the mission? Shouto asked once he finished his food, ever the polite guest. Was good or whatever. The commander was a real piece of work though. Didn't tell us shit about the objectives, then let us go stoke the fire blindly. Pissed me the hell off. Katsuki began stacking the plates, and Shiro helped. Oh, why would they do that? Eijiro asked, shifting into a more comfortable position on the floor, then leaning against the sofa leisurely. He moved with such an ease that you'd think he fucking lived here. I dunno, Katsuki answered. Izuku thought that she didn't want any leaks, and handpicked good heroes so she could trust them to think quick, or whatever. Wow, Jiro drawled, Hero Deku in action again, huh? How did he hold up? Perfect. Katsuki did not say that. Nerd held his own, that's for sure. Didn't help that all the noobs spent the whole time fangirling. Right, I'm sure. I bet he hated that. Yup, I would hate that too. Would totally hate it. Denki took a deep breath. I mean, come on. I kept the coffin in the sky up basically all by myself. People hardly mention it anymore. Even my sidekicks take the piss out of me. Jiro shoved a cushion into his face. Shouto turned to Katsuki. Izuku told me about the wargame. I don't think I've seen him that excited about something in a long time. Whoa, hold up. I haven't read a book since graduation. Shiro interjected and Katsuki rolled his eyes. I'm sure. What's a wargame? They all turned to Katsuki. I dunno, it's sorta like simulating a mission. Izuku wrote up our mission into an interactive scenario. The kids split into groups and put themselves in our shoes, kinda like roleplay. And we have to factor in the consequences of their decisions in real time, play them out. It's pretty damn cool, useful for the brats, I guess. Wow, that was Mina. Did you help him? Yeah, just a little bit. She smiled warmly at that, and he moved on. Didn't linger on it. So, the dinner went on. Drinks were opened, and Katsuki searched for an opening. A lull of silence. A pause. Come on, just tell them. He watched the winding conversations unfold. Tell them, then fold right back up again. Coward. So, who's up for a smoke break? Shiro offers, and almost everyone leaps up. I'll stand outside with you guys then head home. Eijiro also raised himself from the sofa. Shouto and Katsuki remained seating. What, aircon? Not a fan of tobacco. Shouto shrugged. I've never tried. They all showed themselves to the door, said their goodbyes, offered their hearty thank yous for the food, and Katsuki felt like a damn chicken. When he returned, Shouto was putting his coat on. Yo, sit down for a sec. Katsuki ordered. At least one person. Got something to say to you. Shouto did not need to be told further. He returned to his seat on the sofa. You mentioned the mission went well. Shouto commented. But, of course, what was it like fighting with Izuku again? Katsuki slumped into the armchair. The teenager in his ribcage said, shut up, shut up, shut up. Katsuki buried him. It was what? Ah, Shouto said. And Katsuki jolted and tried to frown away the cutting grin that had risen unbiddenly to his face. No point in hiding now, he thought. After all, he had already embarrassed himself before Shouto many times already. Fuck, it was fun, I guess. Like, really, stupid, fun. He's still got it, even after rotting away behind a desk all these years. You're a liar, old man. Or, it helped I guess. Being a teacher, maybe. Fuck, I dunno. Shouto hummed in thought. So, do you see his career in a bit of a better light? You did help him with the wargame. I was surprised to hear actually. He was really happy, and so am I, but I thought you were trying to maintain your distance. Katsuki was supposed to. Damn it, he's going to. A weight returned to his stomach, and it rattled. When Katsuki didn't respond, Shouto continued. It's not like you failed your mission or anything. To find happiness, you shouldn't beat yourself up over it, Katsuki. The ultimate goal is to be friends with Izuku as a person, right? That's how I understood our conversation. Fucking therapist. Katsuki leaned forward. rested his elbows on his knees, and thought. Yeah, fine, whatever, but he thought of flying up from the ruins of a once beautiful school, amid a shower of calcium, towards Izuku with his black whip wrapped around Katsuki's waist. Are you actually getting happier, though? Can you really say you're making better memories? Because, a pressure, building in his chest, distracting, because I sure as hell can't. Except on a mission across the world. And what does that say about Katsuki, huh? He thought about this with a sense of exasperation. What does it say that to be happy he needs 15 ticking time bomb kids lives in danger, an entire town doomed, and the successor of One for All to order him around? To be happy he needs to be at war. But birds don't sing during war. His birds had been mute for many years, if they had ever spoken at all. They had. Shouto was lost in thought, and Katsuki appreciated this expression on his face. As if Shouto was thinking of himself, rather than Katsuki. Rather than dissecting Katsuki. It let Katsuki relax for a moment. We're in it together, right? This mission. I've still not had any luck dating. It's not fun for me, getting to know strangers. So, I don't think I've been getting happier. Looks like we are both failing at total victory. Shouto said evenly, and you might not even have noticed it was one of the most vulnerable things he had ever said to Katsuki, for his tone betrayed none of the embarrassment and self-consciousness that kept Katsuki up at night. Whose brows shot to his hairline? Who says you got a date like that, huh? What? You watch a few romance movies and decide love can only happen when you bump into someone, plan 5 dates, become boyfriends, then marry, huh? Katsuki snapped, but smiled manically, nonetheless. Open your horizons, aircon. Maybe instead of taking randos to get sober or whatever, you start making friends. Get to know them with no intentions. Shouto was silent for a moment. Just a moment. Then he barked out a warm, chiming laugh. And the weight in Katsuki's chest subsided, under the knowledge that the bastard feels better. That a horde of people left his apartment with a belly full of curry and pork. That's great advice, Katsuki, thank you. Katsuki hummed, feeling quite self-fulfilled, thank you very much. I suppose I should return the favor, but my advice might not be any good. Katsuki rolled his eyes. Maybe I should have asked Eijiro to stay as well. Because, Katsuki knew, it really could be bad advice. Just keep trying. It's not like this mission was ever going to be easy. Katsuki's easy smile fell off his face. Here goes nothing. Give yourself the best chance at success. I have a plan already. Shouto turned towards Katsuki. Oh, yeah, one of the heroes on the El Refugio mission. It's number 5 from the US, Mr. Wright. His firm asked to loan me for a year. The first sign of emotion took over Shoto's expression. A displeased frown. Oh, well, I suppose a year isn't too long. And I'm sure you'll keep in touch. He tried to school his displeasure, so you think you might be happier there? Maybe, who knows? Shouto mustered a small smile. Well then, you better see it through. Then Shouto looked closer, leaned forward. Mr. Wright is openly gay, right? The only one in the US top 15. Are you too? Katsuki flushed beet red. And no. I don't know. We've just kissed, is all. Shouto chuckled. You know, you're surprisingly very good at dating. Finding people. I think it's because of how honest you are. Shut up. Katsuki threw a cushion at him, the teenager reigning victorious. 2 years since the dinner. The price of tobacco. Izuku walked into his apartment. It felt pleasantly warm, smelling of onions and curry spices. There was an upbeat pop beat chiming through the space. It made him feel tired. He paused in the Genkan for a few extra seconds as he towed his work shoes off and tried to muster some strength to his expression, some energy to his utterly depleted bones. It's one of those days. But Ochako did nothing wrong, so Izuku walked through the hallway and plastered a smile on his face with great effort. Hey, I'm home. Ochako turned around, leapt towards him, and pressed a quick, energetic kiss against his lips. Izuku pressed back with a crafted insistence. Hi, sorry, I didn't let you know I might be over, but I wanted to make dinner for us. He smiled down at her gently. What are you making? Katsu curry. He wasn't particularly hungry, but it was good, he supposed, to eat even when you don't want to. When your body needs to. It was one of the many, many benefits of having a partner that cared for you even when you don't want to care for yourself. You look tired, Izuku. Ochako commented. Izuku winced and summoned some pep. No, I'm not, really, he insisted. Hard day at work. Not really. A couple classes, some marking, no crime, so he didn't even need to use the suit either. All in all, Izuku thought, a wholly average day. Yeah, Izuku said, instead. Ah, she ruffled his hair. Well, help me out with dinner, and we'll eat together. They dug into the steaming food across from each other at the dining table, with a side of little chit-chat. How was your day? What did you do? Anything interesting? Izuku looked at the pedestal by his window over Ochako's shoulder and wondered when he might be able to use the suit again. And immediately chastised himself. Buried the thought. What a man you are, Izuku Midoriya, he jeered at himself, to wish for violence. Just so you can. Izuku gulped and blinked away the restless stinging in his eyes. Feel alive again. It really was one of those days. They sat at the sofas now, sides flush against each other, watching the news. So, I visited the El Refugio Center today, Ochako mentioned, and for the first time that night Izuku genuinely perked, turning to her with wide eyes and pep. Oh wow, really, how are the kids? He asked. It livened her up too, and she leaned closer with wide eyes of her own. They're really so sweet, completely normal kids. Now, most of their families have moved into the facilities too. Their quirk control is really moving along. I just love to see how enthusiastic they are about it. Izuku could not help the wide, toothy smile that spread across his lips. Ochako's gaze flicked down, then back up, and she looked delighted. Animated. Buzz. There's one that ran up to me. Camilla. She begged me to bring dynamite next time. Can you imagine that? I guess he really made an impression on her. Izuku. Smile faltered. Sure, Kachan had been drifting away ever since he got his suit, but at least he had been local. And after that mission Izuku was sure the room called Kachan was about to see an upgrade. Buzz. Yet now he was so far away that Izuku hardly ever talked to him. You and me both, kid. Well, she's gonna wait a long time. Izuku said ruefully, and cursed the break in his mask when he noticed Ochako's brow scrunch in concern. He mustered another smile. Well, we have his birthday party this weekend. Ochako mentioned with a finger in the air, and Izuku's brows shot up. You forgot, didn't you? Buzz. I can't believe it. Izuku was aghast. Yeah, I guess we will see him very soon. A startling bout of excitement dread, swirling in his stomach. Buzz. Oh, what is that? Ochako felt around the sofa. My phone or your phone? Izuku searched too. They found their devices. Izuku scrolled through the notifications. Both. It was the Class A group chat. Ashido. Are you guys seeing this? Hiroshima. Oh, this is insane. Shouto. What are you guys talking about? Tenya. I believe Bakugou is fighting a villain on Channel 3. It is a very exciting fight. I suggest everyone tune in and cheer on our classmate. Izuku's heart dropped. Kaminari. No gear is crazy. Izuku leapt for the TV remote with a renewed vigor, and clicked over to Channel 3. His eyes widened in shock. Japan's very own number 17, the explosion hero, Dynamite has been caught unawares by a villain while on holiday in Italy it seems. What? Ochako yelped, leaning in closer to the TV to join Izuku's side, but he hardly noticed. What do we know about this villain, Nakamura? We know that she has a very powerful quirk called Burst. She can condense air into anything she wants, very dangerous, indeed. And we just received intel that she identifies with a known terrorist group called ACUS. Sorry to interrupt, but would you look at that? She is flying through the air, over all those buildings, and Dynamite is hot on her trails, running on the rooftops. Izuku watched the shaky video with wide, shimmering eyes. It was a high-speed chase, and Katsuki only used his quirk when he needed to leap from the end of one roof to the beginning of another, and even then they were small explosions. Ochako said something but Izuku didn't register. He's trying to build sweat because he doesn't have his gauntlets. Indeed, Katsuki was wearing a casual linen button-down that the wind pushed against his body in his fearsome speed, casual trousers, and those shoes are not made for running. Izuku heard Ochako mention, surely he has a second to take them off. But I suppose it must be the adrenaline, he could have easily forgotten. Kachan wouldn't forget, Izuku said instantly. No, Izuku's eyes widened. He's building sweat in his feet, using his quirk awakening to take the nitroglycerin there. Izuku's palm clamped on his mouth. It's no question where the villain is taking dynamite. They are moving at breakneck speed towards the gem of Veracita City, the Torre di Lucera. With her quirk it will take her very little to destroy it and kill thousands. But would you look at that? That's our dynamite, chasing with that wide, slightly scary grin for the world to see. When will you take to the sky, Kachan? Izuku wondered. And watched. And there, Katsuki shucked his shoes off and jumped over the ledge of the building. Izuku jumped up from his seat and walked towards the screen. He felt a hand grip his own. Katsuki's palm was empty but the back of his calve was alight. His trousers below his knees burned away, and that was all Izuku noticed before he disappeared. Sped. The camera could catch the Torre di Lucera now, a giant dome structure which protruded out of the city landscape, towering over gorgeous skyline. Katsuki next reappeared in front of the villain, sandwiched between her and the dome. Izuku's brow quirked in confusion. Katsuki's legs were alight again, and he returned to his position behind the villain. He won't be able to use his explosions now without damaging the Torre di Lucera. The announcer exclaimed, tautly. Izuku stroked his chin. Kachan has a plan. What will he do? He heard Ochako say, worried. But Izuku turned to her with a smile. Wobbly, toothy and excited. Oh, he has a plan. He's backed into a corner. But would you look at that smile? Wait. He's pointing both hands at the villain. No, he wouldn't. The cameraman zoomed into Kachan, into Explosion Hero, Dynamite. And fuck, his shirt was covered in soot, in tatters, and so were his trousers. His bare feet. A fierce wind carted through his hair under the sunlight. His grin widened, murder on his eyes. And his palms were alight. A brilliant light, heading towards the villain at speed. But, Izuku laughed, manically. Of course, he left a trail of sweat between the, he laughed, and laughed, between the villain and the dome. So, he's creating a chain reaction, setting them off so that it would cancel out any force from his blast. That's why it's a sphere. That's genius. That's Kachan for you. Indeed, the villain was engulfed in a sphere of fire, two great domes, Kachan's quirk and the Torre di Lucera right beside each other, and Izuku had to ask himself which he found more beautiful. He turned to Ochako, eyes alight, do you get it? He had to calculate precisely where he could suspend the sweat so that it wouldn't hurt the dome. An inch and people would have died. And he had to get back quick enough for the sweat to not fall too far, so he must have dropped it earlier than he should have. Oh, that's why he chased on foot, to build the droplets. Ah, wow. Izuku clamped his mouth shut, and then a small smile graced his lips. Ah, sorry, got a little excited. Ochako grinned widely. I love seeing you like this. And her eyes were full of so much love. Izuku's skin was thrumming with excitement. She got up and pulled him closer to her, leaning up into him and capturing his lips in a pleasant kiss. Ochako was definitely asleep beside him, but Izuku knew sleep would not find him anytime soon. Having say was fun, really fun. It was slow, and gentle, and sometimes insistent and happy. Today there was more energy to his movements, but even so it hadn't tired him out. He laid there in bed, his fingers tapping against his stomach in an irregular rhythm. He turned, and saw Ochako thrusting her face into the pillow, snoring softly. Izuku untangled himself from the covers, and headed towards the living room. He was shirtless and had a pair of joggers on, but he didn't bother to cover himself. He grabbed his suit, held it outside the window and opened, so that he didn't make any noise. The cool metal felt great against his bare skin. Before he jumped out of the window he grabbed something from the coffee table. Melee, thrusters on, thrusters turning on, and he was out. flying a very familiar path to his rooftop. In no time he had arrived, landed softly, and rude that he hadn't even taken a moment to appreciate how great the early summer wind had felt on his jittery skin. Izuku wasted no time. He didn't settle on the ledge tonight. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the floor, fished his phone out, and balanced it on the railings. Next, he brandished a brand new notebook and his finest black gel pen. Lastly, he fished out his pack of cigarettes, picked one out and stuck it between his lips. He lit it. On his phone he searched. Dynamite Best. Izuku backspaced the best, on second thought. Dynamite Battle Compilation. He picked a lengthy video and pressed play, then settled comfortably. Immediately he began scribbling, his thoughts moving faster than his fingers could ever hope to match pace with. He breathed brief, successive takes of tobacco, through a small, satisfied smile. And thought, he felt quite happy. And something about being alone in the night, being completely engaged with this task, made him feel 13 again. 13 and alive, full of possibilities, running breakneck speed against the odds, as if he were wearing fancy shoes while chasing a villain on Italian rooftops. He had to cut his fanboy session short, for he knew Ochako woke up quite early. So, after 2 measly hours, Izuku tore himself away very reluctantly from his notebook already halfway filled, and made his way back to the apartment. He carefully toed in through the window. Ahem. Ah. Izuku yelped and turned around. There was Ochako, in her oversized t-shirt, staring at Izuku in confusion. Oh, Ochako, I didn't think you'd be awake already. Her brows scrunched in confusion and Izuku knew he hadn't said the right thing. I had a bad dream and woke up, but saw you were missing. I was really worried. What were you doing? She looked him up and down. Walked closer, and Izuku winced. Oh, were you smoking? Oh no. Izuku took a deep breath in. I promise I don't do it often. It's just, only sometimes, I swear. The groove in Ochako's brow grew deeper. It's fine, but why are you hiding it? Izuku had no answer. Is everything okay? She moved closer. If something is bothering you, please tell me. I can help you, she pleaded. But nothing is wrong. Izuku whined internally. Really, Ochako? He mustered a wide smile. I just wanted to take a smoking break because I couldn't sleep, that's all. She stared at him, desperately. Izuku kept the smile plastered on his face. After a minute, she slumped. Exasperated. Okay, I'll take your word for it. Izuku slumped too. And smoking really is bad for you, Izuku. I promise I'll stop. She smiled. We'll do it together. And punched him lightly on the arm. Young man, how are you? All Might asked Izuku affectionately. He rolled up to Izuku. Izuku tried to ignore the squeeze of his heart at the sight of the wheelchair. All Might, it really has been too long. Did you fly in yesterday? Izuku asked enthusiastically. Yes, I wanted to make it for young Bakugou's surprise birthday party, even if I know he will truly hate it. He smiled cheekily. All of Class A, some heroes, the staff of Agency Dynamite were here tonight, milling around a bar called X2. Izuku looked around and found that it was so, very Kachan. From the grungy lighting, to the vinyl records, to the vintage punk posters. Skulls everywhere. Izuku smiled affectionately. Well, I'm glad to see you. We'll get to properly catch up during our lunch tomorrow. All Might chuckled. Yup, that's right. I want to hear what's going on with you. Okay guys, Kirishima yelled. He was standing on a table. Eli told me they are 10 minutes away. Izuku was surprised. All Might noticed. I am glad at least one of you tried out the American hero scene. It has its own set of problems, you see, bureaucratically. Izuku nodded. Do you see Kachan there often? All Might grinned. We try to see each other every couple of weeks. We're not based closely at all, but he always makes the effort to come through. Izuku's chest squeezed, this time quite pleasantly. And Mr. Wright, have you met him? All Might looked at Izuku. Yes, we have met a few times. He's a fine hero, very principled, but also quite charismatic. I'm not surprised he gets along with Katsuki. Are they? But Izuku was interrupted. He's early, Kaminari screamed. In a moment, The lights went out. When they come back on I get to see Kachan again. After half a year. 5 tense seconds of silence. Then, the door clicked open. Surprise. Everyone yelled and so did Izuku, and All Might beside him. Nah, fuck this. Katsuki immediately turned around and walked out. And returned a second later, dragged in by US. Hero number 5 hero, Mr. Right. Katsuki jostled against him. Who the fuck is responsible for this, huh? Shitty hair. Actually, it was me. Shouto volunteered, with a tone that showed all that he didn't exactly understand the danger he had put himself in. "I'm gonna kill. Come on Kachan." Kaminari leapt towards Katsuki, and hung onto his back like a child. "You're 27 now. Can't go around threatening to kill people. You might fall even lower on the rankings. Fuck you, you asshole. Course my ranking ain't gonna improve, I don't live here. When I move back. Yeah, happy birthday." Kaminari pressed a sloppy, forceful kiss on his forehead. "Yura." Katsuki sneered but Izuku could tell it was half-hearted. "You should go over there," All Might said, and Izuku turned to him. For a second he was lost for words. "Let's go together," Izuku offered brightly, and Izuku wheeled All Might towards the birthday boy. "Young Bakugo, it is good to see you." Izuku watched Katsuki's sneer fall away, scatter like leaves to the wind. Yeah, thanks for coming." Katsuki shoved a hand in his pant pocket. His car keys, and Izuku's heart sang. Kachan. Happy. Should I hug him? Think. Happy birthday. And Izuku walked forwards and pulled Katsuki into a stiff, short hug, which was just barely reciprocated. You what, Izuku? I had a blast watching your fight in Italy." Katsuki threw towards Izuku a deadpan expression. "Is that supposed to be a fucking pun?" Izuku chuckled, this time genuinely. "So easy to fall into Kachan world." "No, but it can be." Katsuki grinned threateningly. She was small fry at best, and the heroes there fucking suck. Expected me to handle everything on my own while on holiday, those bastards. He was on holiday. "Yo, Deku, good to see you again." Eli joined the conversation, slinging an arm over Katsuki's shoulders. Katsuki tried to shrug it off, but Eli wasn't one to give up, it seems. Katsuki rolled his eyes but let the arm stay there. "And Toshinori, always good to see you." Eli shook his hand. "Yes, you too, young man, although I have been given strict instructions to vacate the property before midnight so I can miss the debauchery." Izuku flushed, and Edgeshot too. "Edgeshot is here?" Katsuki asked. Izuku wondered when the excitement of the party infected Katsuki. Right now, he looked plenty relaxed, leaning into Eli a little bit. "Are they? He's over there. Let's go say hello." Izuku let them walk away, not one to intrude. Though Katsuki did turn over his shoulders and offered Izuku a small nod of acknowledgement, and Izuku felt happy. Izuku spent the night with Shouto and Tenya, deciding to give Ochako some space. Is she upset about the other day? Neither had brought it up but Izuku had a feeling that he ought to stay away for a bit. Let her enjoy the night with her friends. And sure enough, as soon as All Might rolled away with Edgeshot wrapped around his hand, and Izuku really did mean the very second, Kaminari closed the door behind him, turned to the packed bar, and shouted, "Shoots. You fucking idiot, he's still outside." Katsuki yelled, already flushed from whatever alcohol his friends had been pumping him with. Katsuki lunged towards Kaminari, hands teeming with amber light, but Kaminari not only dodged but turned Katsuki's momentum against him and scooped him into a one-handed embrace prison. "Somebody get this 27-year-old a drink, stat." Shouto chuckled from beside Izuku. "I'm gonna go bring them a drink." Shouto and Kachan really are close, huh? Izuku thought. Meanwhile, Izuku hadn't talked to Katsuki Bakugou properly since he left for the US. Izuku searched the room, and his eyes landed on Ochako. She was laughing heartily with Tsuyu and Izuku felt comforted enough to look away and not worry. "How are things going on with you and Uraraka?" Tenya asked. Izuku gave him an easy smile, loosened by the 2 beers he had drunk. "Really well, thank you for asking." "So, while Izuku caught up with the small number of Class A alumni that remained within the realm of sobriety, all else fell into depravity. The tables had been cleared and soon there was only a dance floor. "Come on Midoriya." Eijiro bounced up to him. "It's Katsuki's great return, you should drink more. And stop moping about in the outskirts." Izuku was startled, then looked around. Yes, indeed, he had been settled in the peripheries, leaning on one of the tables shoved away to the side. He turned towards Eijiro's concerned eyes. Izuku." He turned towards the cry. It was Ochako, and she looked just as sober as him. "I have an early morning, so I think I'll head out." Will you stay?" she asked. Hiroshima remained, waiting for Izuku's answer, with a strange weight in his stare. Izuku looked between the two. Then, he turned to Ochako with a determined glint in his eyes. "I've barely talked to Kachan today. I have to make an effort. Have to restore the room called Kachan. I think I'll stay a bit longer." "Okay." And Ochako pecked him on the cheek and bounced away. "That's what I'm saying." Hiroshima slung an arm around Izuku's shoulders and pulled him towards the dance floor. Kachan's friends are much more tactile than his own, Izuku thought. Hiroshima was his friend too, and Izuku appreciated the warm, friendly embrace. It untied something in his stomach. He offered Izuku another bottle of beer, which Izuku accepted. He'll need the liquid courage if he's to be expected to dance. Not one of his specialties. He rocked minimally to the upbeat house music, just enough to pass any suspicion that he's not participating. The beer fell quickly towards the bottom of the bottle and Izuku's movements started showing a bit more purpose to them. Ashido stepped over, and hugged him. He returned it. "Oh, she's far gone," he thought as she stumbled on the dance floor. Even so, her dance moves definitely a sense of purpose to them, as she rocked back and forth rhythmically, stepped in time with the song. Izuku enjoyed the bright smile on her face, all toothy and wide. She's having so much fun. The thought tended to a small flame of fondness in his chest. He tried to mirror her beat and found it was much easier to fall into the rhythm now. He looked around and, across the crowd, there was Kachan, dancing in a throng of people much like himself, but with far more confidence. Izuku watched a hand snake up to Katsuki from behind, holding a shot glass. Eli was taller than Katsuki by a few inches, so Izuku could see him behind Katsuki. Close. He brought the shot glass up to Katsuki's lips, tipped the contents into his mouth. Katsuki tilted up, accepting it, head falling on Eli's shoulder behind him. A drop must have dribbled out from the corner of his lips because Izuku stopped moving for a second, shocked. Curious. Eli bent down, licked the droplet all the way up to Katsuki's lip. Katsuki grinned, threateningly, like he had when he stared down the Akis agent with the Torre di Lucera behind her. Izuku's breath stopped still, and in a moment of drunk clarity, he understood. He understood what had struck him as interesting when he had watched Eli first kiss Katsuki in a bar in Mexico. It was. Suddenly, Izuku needed a smoke. There was an alleyway next to the bar that appeared secluded enough. And a store opposite where he could buy a new pack. Izuku leaned against the brick wall, fished out a cigarette, and stuck it between in his lips. Shouto had once asked him, "What is chemistry anyways?" And Izuku could not answer then. 1 year into a relationship, and he couldn't. That's chemistry. There were tears welling in his eyes, and the only silver lining was that they were not caused by whatever had happened this week, or in there. This happened all the time, every single time tobacco tasted his lungs, so Izuku ignored it. And instead, thought of chemistry, with the curiosity of a teenager. He finished one, then lit another. And Aneth. "Hey, what the fuck?" Izuku jerked towards the familiar voice, approaching. Ka. Izuku dropped the lit cigarette hastily. "Don't try and get rid of the evidence, I fucking saw it, you dweeb." Katsuki marched closer, unsteadily. They really plastered him. Once Katsuki close enough to fall under the pale yellow street lamp and get a good look at Izuku's embarrassingly wet cheeks, his half-hearted sneer fell away. To Izuku's surprise he leapt forwards. "Hey, the fuck's the matter?" Katsuki cupped both of Izuku's cheeks in his hands. "Drunk Chan." used his thumbs to brush away the tears, and Izuku's eyes widened. Blackout-chan. Izuku laughed lightly. Kachan, I'm fine. Are you upset? Katsuki leaned closer, watching Izuku's face methodically. Seriously, I'm fine. I can't explain it, this is just something that happens. I'm not crying for real. Katsuki leaned back, appraised him disbelievingly. Huh, what does that mean? You lying to me, Deku. Izuku laughed and it was genuine. I'm serious, Kachan. Katsuki brushed the last of the wetness away and stepped back. He crossed his arms over his chest firmly. You better explain it to me then. Or I'm calling round face. Izuku turned, and surprisingly the words came easy to him. Must be the alcohol. Well, I don't know why. Every time I smoke, my eyes water. I don't feel bad or anything. My body feels completely fine, my thoughts are clear. I don't know why it happens. Katsuki hummed in thought, and leaned against the brick wall beside Izuku. Izuku liked that they couldn't see each other. That they faced forwards, together. You really have no idea. That's fucking crazy. Think harder. Okay, Kachan. Izuku offered brightly, I'll try. And Izuku thought. His mouth moved before he could organize any of his loose ideas into coherency. I don't really think when I do it. But, I dunno. Imagine the smoke moving through my body. Suddenly Izuku felt self-conscious, infecting my lungs. This sounds crazy. You serious? Katsuki's voice was even, but not accusatory. Yeah, I picture the black smoke sticking to my throat. And, yeah, I guess. And you don't feel bad. Or upset, at the image of this slowly killing you. Izuku's eyes watered, as if he still had a cancer stick between his lips. I suppose I feel, guilty. Guilty. Katsuki turned to him, back still pressed against the wall. Yeah, guilty. About what? About hiding it from Ochako. Though, she knows now. Huh, and what? I think about. Izuku never talked about Tenko to Katsuki. Not to the boy Tenko had almost killed. But the words fell from Izuku's tongue without a second thought. Tenko. Oh, if Katsuki was shocked he didn't show it, why? Well, Izuku chuckled, his last words to me was him telling me to do my damn best, you know. I don't think I've ever told you before. The words spilled, piled atop each other in the space between Katsuki and Izuku. And Izuku could hardly believe that they hadn't spoken to each other in 6 months. That they were basically strangers with a long history, yet here he was. I try my best, all the time, except when you smoke. Izuku nodded. Yeah, so why do you do it? Katsuki asked, betraying nothing. There was a reason, Izuku knew. There had to be, for such crazy, unthinking, stupid, reckless, immoral behavior. Built on endangerment and deceit. I don't know, Kachan. I just want to. Izuku hated himself, hated how he yearned to grab another. I'm horrible. There was silence. Izuku spied movement from the corner of his eyes. Izuku turned towards him, saw that Katsuki's shoulders were shaking. Kachan. Then, it spilled out, peals of bright, open laughter. Katsuki threw his head back and laughed, and laughed and laughed. Barking, straight from his chest, with eyes that squinted in mirth forming little wrinkles in the corner. Izuku was perplexed, and captivated. Kachan is really different when he is drunk, he thought. Izuku subscribed it to memory. Kachan, you're making fun of me, I think. Katsuki jumped off the wall and faced Izuku, with a mean grin spreading wildly on his face. Damn right I'm making fun of you. He pointed an accusing finger at Izuku. You really are so stupid, Izuku. Izuku smiled, unsure. You have no clue what's going on in that stupid head of yours. Katsuki knocked lightly on his skull. Cut it out, Kachan. Izuku chuckled, shaking the offending hand away. Where is this going? Look, you may have monologued at each other during battle, or whatever, but I actually spent days chillin' with that psycho back when he still had his wits about him. Izuku's eyes widened. I forgot. And let me tell you right now, you go to the other side and tell Tamura fucking Shigaraki that every time you smoke you cry. Because you're not, what? Trying your best to stay alive and healthy. Bah, Katsuki barked, disbelievingly. I bet he would crawl back up to Earth. Because he's for sure in hell, and kill you himself. Considering his den stunk of weed and tobacco. Katsuki laughed again, descending into another fit. Izuku flushed. It does sound stupid. You're so in your damn head you've lost touch with reality, you Deku. Ever think you just want to smoke because you've developed a nicotine addiction? Izuku gasped. It's not that simple, right? It is that simple, you moron. All my friends can't let that shit go. It's fucking normal. Izuku was lost in thought. Katsuki laughed again. It snapped Izuku back down to earth. I'm never telling you anything again, Kachan, if you keep being rude. Izuku snapped, genuinely. Katsuki ceased his giggles with much effort. Ha! Then who'll tell you you're being stupid? Anyways, Shigaraki probably just meant you should never give up, dumbass. God, you never see what's right in front of you. Never take yourself into account. Izuku's eyes widened. His hand touched his pocket, at the outline of the pack. Katsuki sighed. Come on, gimme one. Izuku gasped. You smoke, Kachan, he sneered. Course not. Not gonna ruin my lungs like the other extras. Izuku frowned. So, why do you want one? Katsuki got impatient. He leaned forward, reached his hand into Izuku's back pocket. Stuck it all the way inside. If Izuku had not been leaning, his knees might have given out, at the feel of Katsuki's hand, Kachan's hand, over there. Katsuki fished the pack out. Picked one out, stuck it in his lips. Fished another one out, stuck it in Izuku's. One is not gonna kill me, idiot. I'll take it with you to prove a point or whatever. Izuku lit his own, then reluctantly lit Katsuki's. They breathed in together, then exhaled. Then again. So, Izuku asked. Katsuki hummed. Not too bad on top of the alcohol. Maybe the extras had a point. Izuku laughed. Bright and easy and genuine. You don't think it's a disgusting habit? Yeah, it definitely is. Katsuki turned to Izuku with a slanted grin, but it's kinda hot, too. Izuku flushed, and he just had to look away. Heart racing. They continued smoking. I'm having a smoke break with Kachan. Oh, Izuku thought, how far we've come. So, what's the deal with you and Eli? Izuku asked as the flame came closer and closer to the butt. Katsuki hummed. We're not together, Kachan. What? That makes no sense. What are you? Katsuki hummed in thought. Izuku admired the small smile growing on his lips, even if it made the pit in his stomach grow deeper. We're not in a relationship. But, it's fun. I'm having fun. Okay. They kill the cigarettes. Sometimes, I think that no one knows me better than you do. I want to talk to you more, Kachan. Katsuki jerked up, and for a second his expression was unschooled. And he looked undone. Izuku's tongue moved on its own. Will you please stay in Japan? It was the most selfish thing Izuku had ever done. 2 years 3 months since the dinner. A meaningful conversation. I'm going to stay in Japan. Okay, Eli responded. Katsuki looked up at him. He was lying down in bed, and Eli was beside him, sitting up. Wanna join my agency? As a loan? Eli turned to him and smiled. Sure, that was 2 months ago. Katsuki waited impatiently in front of the Miho shrine, tapping his feet impatiently on the gravel. Sorry, Kachan, came a booming voice. It was so early in the morning that Katsuki didn't bother to bite back in anger. Whatever. His platitude was broken by a yawn. Are you tired, Kachan? You're tired. Nope, Izuku said brightly, and sure enough the little nerd didn't look fazed. He was clad in hiking gear, a loose white t-shirt, long-sleeved black compression shirt underneath, walking boots, and a huge backpack. He looks 16 again. Let's go then. When Izuku contacted him and said he wanted to go hiking to celebrate his birthday, Katsuki's first response was, sure. After all, there was much worse he could do with his time compared to the Mihono Matsubara Pine Grove and Coastal Walk. It was a bright and sunny day for July, and if these conditions keep up they may even be able to see Mount Fuji. Worth it. That's why Katsuki agreed. Katsuki led the way. Why'd you wanna hike on your birthday anyways? Katsuki asked. Izuku hummed. I remember you said you liked hiking. Katsuki flared with irritation. It's not my birthday, moron. We should do what you wanna do. His relationship with Izuku since he had moved back to Japan had been okay. No thanks to Katsuki and all thanks to Izuku. Somewhere between his busy life as a UA teacher, a part-time hero, and a full-time boyfriend, Izuku found plenty of energy to call Katsuki, talk about his day, initiate coffees and lunches and dinners. It was totally weird, but when Izuku suggested a hike, for a birthday no less, Katsuki didn't have the heart to refuse. After all, if the conditions stay clear they might be able to see Mount Fuji, he reminded himself as a matter of fact. How are your parents? Izuku asked as they walked through the pine trees along the shore. Not unlike the pine groves of El Refugio, Katsuki thought with a sense of ease. They're good. Hag is always buggin' me to come over. How's your mom? She's good. I see her every weekend. She buggin' you about marriage and kids yet? Katsuki winced. Why would I ask that? He suddenly realized he did not care about Izuku's marriage and Izuku's kids. The boy in question laughed. You'd think so, but Mom is very adamant that I'm too young to get married anytime soon. I guess it's because she got married so young. Right. Katsuki relaxed. They walked along the path in a pleasant mixture of companionable silence and light chatter. Intel, how are things with Eli? Every time anyone asked Izuku about his relationship he would turn to them with the same smile each time and it's great. And it pisses Katsuki off. Out of spite, he decided to be honest. Our relationship is weird, is what he says, and Izuku turned to him abruptly. In what way? He asks eagerly. Damn gossip, we're not together. Okay, spit it out, Deku. Katsuki thought in irritation, but held himself back. Let the moron come to his own conclusions, he thought. But you live together. Yeah, and you work together. Yup, so why are you not together? Against all instincts, Katsuki opened his mouth. Out of spite, he reminded himself. I like Eli, he's fun or whatever, and things are more natural than it had been with Atsuo. But I dunno, it's not like we talk. Izuku was silent for a moment. What do you mean? How can you spend all day with someone every day and not talk? I bet all you do with pink cheeks is talk about your fucking feelings, Katsuki thought derisively. We play around, or tease, or work together on some kind of project. But, nah, we don't talk. Not about our issues, or feelings, or anything like that. That's why we're not together. Izuku hummed in thought, I don't really get it. Not all relationships need to look like yours, Izuku. Katsuki commented with a touch of bitterness. Stupid idiot, but you just said it wasn't a relationship. Smart ass, I'm gonna throw you over the edge into the rocks. Okay, sorry. They continued walking. Every couple of hours they stopped and took a break. Drinking water, enjoying the scenery, catching their breath. Izuku had not broken even a bead of sweat, and Katsuki hated him for it. Katsuki was enjoying himself enough, and somewhere along the path he wondered, is this me enjoying my time with Izuku, the person? Had he become a person to me now? A friend? The Suruga Bay opened before them and Izuku gasped. Wow! Katsuki turned and saw Izuku's eyes were wide and shimmery. Aw fuck! Katsuki opened his mouth, but a sharp inner voice snapped at him, it's none of our business. Right, he's a normal friend. Friends who go on hikes together and make pleasant, mundane conversation. Friends who catch up. Friends who, because while Katsuki forced himself away from their island, someone let Izuku think it was completely normal to sob over every cigarette, because he thought he was killing himself. While Katsuki was fighting villains and visiting Duomos, and drinking wine, Izuku was crying alone. Look, I've been thinking about what you said at my birthday. Katsuki said. He had to. Izuku did not turn to him. He continued walking along the path. Oh, what did I say? Izuku asked maturely. About Shigaraki's last words to you. Izuku did not betray any emotion, but his plain expression was enough to really irritate Katsuki. It was an immutable fact that, after all these years, Izuku was still one of the most dishonest people Katsuki knew. Shouto and Ajira wore their hearts on their sleeves. Eli and Izuku buried theirs so deep within their ribcage that only surgery could unearth their true intentions. But Katsuki loved a challenge. He said, "Do your damn best, right?" Katsuki asked. "Why bring it up, Kachan?" Izuku asked, and he just sounded so adult. Like a teacher talking to a student. 27 years old now. "Well, I'm worried." Katsuki wasn't supposed to be worried about Izuku. He had established that at after-dinner drinks with Shouto 2 years ago at X2. He can't help himself. "You don't need to worry about me," Izuku said brightly, fakely. "Damn it. Don't ya wanna know what I'm worried about?" Katsuki asked. Izuku paused, then nodded. "I think you might be misinterpreting it." Izuku turned to him abruptly. Confused but also irritated. Katsuki thought, finally, irritated was better than blank. Better than plain. "I don't think I am." "So," Katsuki raises a brow, "you're happy?" "Yup, I have 2 jobs that I love. My passion. I have a girlfriend that likes me. I make time for all my friends, for my mom. Every component of my life is good, and nice, and tidy." He's trying to sound just so grown up, Katsuki thought with a wrinkle of his nose. "It's nauseating. You know you gotta feel a little bad to feel actual happiness, right?" Izuku scoffed. "What do you know about it?" he asked. This time Katsuki laughed. It was full on and hearty. "Yeah, you're right. Who am I to give you a lecture? I'm not fucking happy either. But at least I'm honest about it. I am happy," Izuku insisted, latching onto Katsuki's either. "Oh, so, you cry every time you take a cigarette break because you feel guilty about giving yourself cancer, but you're happy, right?" Sardonic. Izuku was silent, and Katsuki wondered whether he went too far. Stupid. And he steeled himself to return to pleasant platitudes and talks of the weather for the rest of the way. It's Izuku who spoke first, and Katsuki winced in anticipation. "I interpret do your best as be grateful for everything I have. Be mindful every day I wake up, and every time I sleep. Cherish my blessings. That's it." Katsuki pondered on that, and the rebuttal made home on his tongue. He wondered whether he should let them tipple out. "Deku is not our responsibility." Katsuki continued walking. How would you interpret it?" Izuku asked, and they fell. "You don't have enough. Sorry." Katsuki stopped, and turned around. The sun was behind him, and it illuminated Izuku. His windblown messy hair, his scars, his stupidly nostalgic outfit. It made him look You shouldn't be grateful, you should think that you don't have enough. You should go out of your way to be as happy as possible. That's doing your best." Katsuki turned back around, in my opinion, and walked further up the path. Izuku followed. A few hours later they arrived at the peak of the hike, surrounded by unique rock formations and tide pools. The rhythmic sound of waves was soothing, Katsuki thought. Appreciated. The smell of salt water was so potent that if he closed his eyes he would be right back at a seaside cantina, with Izuku Midoriya sitting close and nerding out. He walked over to the bench. "I need a break." And he wasn't embarrassed. They sat and sipped on their water. Katsuki's heart was heavy, and he thought it might overflow at the slightest of nudges. He spoke next in a small, smooth voice. "It all makes sense now." Izuku turned to him. What happened 2 years ago?" Izuku was startled, and Katsuki just had to look away. At the dinner, a month after you got your suit. With Class A." Katsuki kept his gaze tracked on the rocks. "Something felt off to me, and I didn't like it. It was like, you had a new attitude to life, I dunno. I was used to you being all ambitious and obsessive, but you'd calmed down, settled. But I was still there, trying to chase something long gone." He let that sit between the two of them. Katsuki sighed. "I'm not gonna say your philosophy is wrong. I might have thought so 2 years ago but it's your life. People grow and change, so live it how you see best." It felt like goodbye, and I'll do the same. Izuku was silent. Until he wasn't. Is it because I wanted to become a teacher?" Katsuki laughed. "You know, I hated it when you told me that. I was pissed off. Drank with Shouto after and complained all about it." Katsuki found the courage to turn to Izuku, to meet his indecipherable, plain gaze with his soft ones. and smiled. But I get it. I really got it when we fought together at El Refugio. You're a teacher. It's not just your profession. It's who you are. And, don't say it. Don't say it, the teenager raged. I reckon I was your first student. A stray leaf flew in the wind. Got lodged in Izuku's curly hair. Katsuki reached up, picked it out, letting it graze Izuku's scarred cheek as he pulled back. You taught me how to be a hero. And now I gotta figure out the rest myself. Izuku's face, oh so blank. 2 years 5 months since the dinner. Are you happier than yesterday? Izuku had a mission. It was with Tenya, Kaminari, Momo and Shiro. An auspicious group. A small earthquake along the coast caused a suspension bridge to collapse. Izuku had just finished with his classes and happened to be 15 minutes away by suit. It was good, honest work. He coordinated with Tenya initially, and managed to rescue everyone away from the premises. Then, with Momo and Shiro he slowly but surely cleared the debris. Kaminari showed up near the end to sort out the power grid. All in all, done and dusted. So, as Izuku sipped on his third drink of the night with his friends at Momo's lavish apartment, he felt fulfilled and relaxed. When was the last time you guys fought an actual villain? Kaminari asked. Momo hummed. Maybe, a month ago. Kaminari scoffed. Yeah same. Maybe I'll move to the States like Katsuki. I mean, people still talk about that fight in Italy. Tenya chopped at Kaminari's head. He's aggressive when he's tipsy, Izuku thought with amusement. Being a hero is not about fame. Kaminari rubbed his head. Geez, I know, I'm just joking around, Prez. I am not the president of anything, so you shouldn't call me that. But Izuku could see that Tenya's cheeks were flushing red even in the dim lighting. They fell into companionable silence. Actually, Tenya said, and Izuku turned towards him, I had an interesting conversation with Todoroki recently. I wonder if you guys would be able to contribute. Momo perked. Oh, sounds interesting. Go ahead, Iida. Tenya cleared his throat. Well, it was a bit strange. He asked me what's the happiest I've been, and I'm curious what you all have to say. Izuku hummed, and thought. The table was silent. For several moments, Momo broke it. Mine is a recent memory. A warm smile overtook, and Izuku was captivated, watching with wide eyes. I went to a concert with Kyoka, and we had a blast. I have never drunk so much in my life. Or let so loose. It was really, really good music. I can't remember the last time I felt so free. Even Kaminari smiled at that. Bright and toothy. Ah, that was the ruin and reverie right. Arg, so jealous. I begged her to give me the extra ticket. Momo laughed at that. Well, too bad. I got there first. She taunted, teasingly. Momo's really changed since Ua, huh? Well, mine is quite recent too, I think. Kaminari commented. My sister had a baby 2 years ago, and man 2-year-olds are so cute. Momo gasped. No they are not. My nephew is a nightmare. No, my little angel Suzuki is the sweetest little girl. She never makes a fuss, and absolutely adores me. It's nice, to be able to chill with her and shower her with affection. When I first held her, God, it was like I love her as much as I'd love my own kid, you know. Another warm smile, and Izuku, so wide-eyed. What about you, Midoriya? Tenya asked. Izuku flinched. He hadn't even given it a proper thought. Izuku searched his memories. Happiest. He searched and searched and searched. What does it even mean? To be happy. There were many moments in his teaching career when he'd felt happy. When he received goodbye letters from students telling him how much he had taught them, for example. During his relationship with Ochako, there were even more moments. Their first kiss. The first time they slept with each other, shy and fumbling. But they all blended together into a mosaic. Nothing stuck out. You gotta feel a little bad first to feel actually good. Katsuki had said to him. Why did that pop out now? The table had been silent for a bit too long. I suppose, when I got one for all from All Might. Izuku offered, but his heart wasn't in it. Come on dude, that was so long ago. Kaminari complained in jest. And the conversation moved, evolved. Izuku left after he finished that drink. Suited on and flew away. But rather than heading towards his apartment he went to his rooftop. The weather had turned. It was spitting rain and the wind was picking up. He ought to go inside. This feels like a storm. But, he perched himself on the railing and let himself feel it. What's the happiest I've been? He asked himself, and closed his eyes. Rain and wind, wind and rain. Ah, this feels familiar. His heart sank. He wasn't there anymore, on a nondescript rooftop at the edge of the city. He was at the heart of war, mind split between Shigaraki, between Tenko, and the vestige of All Might nestled his consciousness. His shape was becoming firmer and firmer. He couldn't breathe. Izuku hardly remembered how he had felt in that very moment, with his mentor's life slipping through his fingers. He feeling of wind and rain pelting his skin. But he did remember when he turned around. To the coffin. And he was there. Izuku's breath had stuck, lodged in his throat, and he couldn't breathe in the present either, against the storm of tonight. Kachan had launched himself towards Izuku, and Izuku stopped worrying. Worrying whether his friend was alive, worrying about All Might's fate. It was going to be fine. Izuku hadn't been grinning ear to ear, laughing, or feeling any real sort of joy. There was no time, but it was so long ago, too. And what exactly does it say about Izuku, if he needs to be at war to be happy? Izuku stirred with a jolt and flew. Not towards his apartment, towards Ochako's. He knocked on the well-lit window, happy that she was still awake. Ochako opened it. Izuku, I wasn't are you okay? Izuku walked through the window and into her lovely apartment. It was pink, and beautiful, and she was beautiful. Izuku, you're crying. What happened? Was it the mission? And no, Ochako, I just need to talk to you about something. She stiffened all over, and led him to her sofas. Izuku took the suit off, leaving him in his work trousers and buttoned shirt. What's up, Izuku? Ochako asked casually. I just wanted to ask if you're happy. Izuku so wanted to avoid her gaze, but he knew that was the coward's way out. So, he looked at her. And she appeared irritated and confused. You came all the way here unannounced, crying, to ask me if I'm happy. Izuku gulped. Yeah, I was having drinks with Tenya and it came up, so I wanted to ask you. What's the happiest you've been? He asked. She relaxed a tad. Well, if you're just curious, I guess I'd need to think about it. Why? What would you say? Izuku gulped. I couldn't answer. She was once again as stiff as a plank. Really? Izuku hummed in agreement. Really? I guess, it'd have to be from when I had one for all. There, he had said it. The admission felt like poison on his tongue. And saying it out loud made him feel bad. Ungrateful. He loathed himself. You need to feel a little bad before. Well, I guess that makes sense. For me, I would say it was after graduation, when I started up my agency and the quirk counseling. There was something sad in her voice. And would you say you're getting happier? Making happier memories than that? With me? Izuku left unsaid. Ochako jerked, revealing her full face expression to Izuku. She's crying. Izuku instinctively moved closer and brushed them away. She let him, but only for a second before she whacked his hands away. Be straight with me, Izuku. You're being cruel. We haven't had a meaningful conversation in months, and now you come unexpectedly, which you've never done before, and ask if I'm, what? Happy with you. She thinks I'm breaking up with her, Izuku thinks. Am I? Izuku blanched. I don't really know where I'm going with this, these are just thoughts I had. And I don't want to keep them from you. Ochako's anger fell away, and she slumped forward. They were awfully close. I need to be with you. She whispered, oh so small were her words. Izuku's heart sank. Why? He asked. I just think it's right. It feels right. And Izuku understood. His hands reached for her face, cupped her cheeks, and pulled her towards him. So that they were eye to eye. Ochako, he said, equally as softly, I think, every day I spend with you I realize how amazing you are. You are the epitome of heroism to me, the way you put others above yourself. The way you take care of me when nobody else does, not even myself. I loved All Might because he was a hero who could smile no matter the situation. But you're the hero who strives to make others smile. And I love that. I love you. She sniffed mightily. Izuku. Don't. Izuku forced out urgently. I just don't think we're making happier memories. Feeling new joy. Beyond admiration. Now his own tears flowed. He loathed himself. I want to be as happy as possible too. He thought. I want to do my best. I'm really, really sorry, Ochako. She sobbed. I need you to stay. And his heart broke. Am I doing the right thing? He was ready to take it all back. Why? He whispered. She was quiet, almost too quiet for him to hear. I feel her when I'm with you. But not quiet enough for him to miss. 2 years 7 months since the dinner. 3 little birds. Katsuki woke up and felt like shit. The conversations of last night flashed through his mind unpleasantly, like a hangover. Aching what needn't be ached, tensing what should never be tensed. Katsuki settled himself right in the center of his king-sized bed, left uncommonly empty today. Of course, it's empty today, and sighed. He reached for his phone. Are you nearby? Eijiro. Morning. Nah, I'm up in Tokyo planning for a mission. What's up? Katsuki could ask him to come down, but that made him feel needy and pathetic, like a teenager calling their friends over for boy advice. Yura. Katsuki scrolled, after typing never mind, to Eijiro. Are you free today? It was a Saturday after all, so Katsuki had his hopes high. Air conditioner hero. Yes, I am. Do you want to do something together? Katsuki relaxed. Then, Katsuki scrolled even further, found what he was looking for, and clicked on Deku. Feel sick today, got a rain check on lunch. Will reschedule. Sent. With that, he dropped his phone on his mattress with a thud. Shouto arrived 2 hours later, and by then Katsuki had dragged himself out of bed, vacuumed his entire house, cleaned all the surfaces, put on the rice, started steaming some fish and vegetables, and if anyone were to walk into this they might have thought that today must be one of Explosion Hero Dynamite's most productive days. Katsuki buzzed Shouto in. Hello, Shouto said as he walked inside. Sup. Katsuki walked away. Have you had lunch yet? No. Are you cooking? Katsuki hummed. I brought some grapes. They are very expensive, so they must be nice. Shouto walked up to the open-plan kitchen and dropped a paper box teeming with ruby grapes on the counter. Katsuki peered inside. Damn thoughtful gift. And suddenly he was very glad that the first thing he did that morning was pick up the phone and reach out to someone. Thanks, Katsuki said. He checked on the fish, opening the lid just a tad. And felt Shouto's eyes on him. Is everything okay? Katsuki hummed in agreement. Where's Eli? Is he out? He's gone. The fish was done, the vegetables were done. The rice had been done for a few minutes now. No reason not to sit down and eat, which they both did methodically. So, did you two have a fight? Or is it over? Shouto asked, evenly. Katsuki continued chewing and mulled over the question in this time. Both. Is that right, though? Well, I dunno. It wasn't a fight. It was a proposition, discussion. Katsuki said instead. Shouto's face remained blank. That's what made him so easy to talk to, Katsuki thought as he watched his companion carefully. Talking to Shouto Todoroki was like talking to a brick wall. He didn't judge, didn't betray his emotions at whatever you had to tell him. He just simply absorbed. I'm very curious. Would you like to talk about it, or like me to take your mind away? Shouto asked. I believe this may be a typical break-up situation, even if you two were never really together. So, I suppose ice cream is in order. Katsuki physically recoiled, face twisting into a disgusted sneer. I'd rather talk than whatever nightmare you just described. Katsuki hissed. Shouto nodded. So, ring. Katsuki squinted an eye in confusion. Are you expecting someone? Shouto asked. Nah. I'll get it. Shouto was closer to the door and disappeared into the genkan. Meanwhile, Katsuki began collecting the dishes. So, imagine Katsuki's surprise when he turns away from the sink and there's Izuku. Perhaps the one person he didn't want to see today. Katsuki's brow crimped in irritation. Izuku said, dropping the bag in his arms on the counter. "You don't look sick," he accused. Katsuki scoffed. "You idiot. People say that is code when there's something going on in their lives." Katsuki barked, and thought this might be the first bit of energy he's been graced with all day. Izuku flushed. "Well, I didn't know that." Izuku insisted. "So, I brought over soup and mapo tofu." Katsuki dried his hands and walked over to the counter. "If you made it then I don't want it, salaryman." Izuku bristled. I made the soup, and it's really good. And I got mapo tofu from that place by Ua that you really liked." Katsuki softened. "Yeah, fine, you can stay." Izuku stiffened. "Don't go doing me a favor or anything, I can leave if you." Katsuki flicked Izuku's forehead, stopping him dead in his tracks. "Don't make me change my mind." And with that, Katsuki had a new guest. "Let's make these fuckers some tea." Katsuki swung his cabinet open with a vengeance and grabbed a teapot and 3 cups. By the time he walked into the living room his guests had made themselves at home. "Have some damn tea if you're gonna overstay, you're welcome." Katsuki slammed the tray on the coffee table. "You invited me?" Shouto asked, deadpan. Izuku looked around uncomfortably. "So, if you're not sick, is everything okay, Kachan?" he asked. Katsuki poured himself a cup. "Whatever. Fine." Eli went back to the US today. Izuku's lips fell, eyes widening in understanding. "Will he come back?" Shouto asked. "Or maybe you will go back with him, to work in his firm." Katsuki resolutely looked away from Izuku, relegating him to the shadows of his periphery. "Nah, I'm not going back." "Good," Izuku said instantly. Katsuki kept his eyes tracked on the steam spiraling from his cup. "So, why'd you break up?" Shouto asked and Katsuki flared with irritation. "We weren't together," he snapped. "All right." There was a silence. And Katsuki sighed. "Fucking hate this." He looked up at Shouto. "It's all your fault." He cleared his throat. Shouto Todoroki and his stupid advice. "Makin' me spiral." Izuku beat him to it. "You told me last time that you don't really share things with each other. Is that relevant?" Katsuki glanced up, and sure enough Izuku was smiling gently, eyes wide and encouraging as if Katsuki were once of his students' friends. Katsuki scoffed, but was glad that his shoulders felt lighter, if only by a little bit. "Hey, if we just kept not sharing, this whole mess would have been manageable." Katsuki barked. "Shit was just peachy with us not sharing. And fuck if that wasn't the truth." Eli was a warm presence, who never asked questions about his scars, about how he felt about his memories, about his fellow soldiers, about Deku. He asked, "What do you wanna eat tonight? Do you wanna go dancing? Wanna go hiking? Wanna take this mission?" And he kissed Katsuki with a real purpose and force, and Katsuki didn't have to think about intimacy with him. About the right thing to do. He just did it. Well, that was that. And completely and utterly over now. Because Eli had to open his mouth. "You opened up to him?" Shouto asked. "Nah." Flashes of last night assaulted Katsuki's vision for a moment, lingering. "He asked me to move permanently to the US." Izuku sucked in a breath, and even Shouto stiffened. He's fucking ambitious. I never thought he'd stay forever, but what even happened to get to this point? He's ambitious, and it goes damn deep. I didn't even notice. Don't know how I couldn't see it coming. A lull of silence. Shouto was the one to break it. "This makes no sense." Katsuki grumbled in frustration. Fine. He asked me to move the US with him because I dunno, yeah. He has some strong views about the world. He's not a fan of hawks, and the HPSC despises them. I didn't even find out until last night. He thinks that the Japanese heroes and hero system don't do enough to bring other countries to speed. Spread our blessings or whatever. Katsuki purposefully looked at Izuku as he finished, bringing his teacup to his lips and watching the teacher, the symbol of Japanese heroism, through the steam. He thinks what we're doing is not enough. That we're not bothering to get involved in global issues. He thinks any differences in American society are all for show, and everyone remembers. Katsuki took a deep breath. He remembers how quick their government was to give in to all for one. That it sent a message to American hero society. Villain society. of weakness. It revealed a crack that will grow, and everything will implode. Then you add in singularity quirks, and he thinks it's all a shitshow waiting to happen. Katsuki watched Shouto carefully, the number 2 hero, of the safest country in the world. He didn't like how laid back all of us are. He thinks that our war, it was just the beginning. The US heroes have always been privatized and competitive, like our system was. It has its problems, alright, but he kept going on and on about how the party is gonna nationalize the hero firms by using all for one as an excuse. Turn them into soldiers. He wants to stop it before it gets to that. Katsuki let that sit between them. Right, Shouto said. Katsuki's heart clenched painfully. He couldn't help but think, again, he did not want Izuku here. He made sure to uninvite him. He made sure to cancel their plans. Because that idiot, who knows how he'd take Eli's passionate, croaky screams. His wide frantic eyes as he shouted at Katsuki the night before about how things aren't right. Katsuki. The world's not good, you know it. You're not just some veteran, playing pretend with his friends. Like him. Deku didn't deserve to hear this shit. I didn't need to hear. Katsuki looked up. Izuku had that stupid, plain face. The one that Katsuki could never decipher. Not at 6, not at 13, not at 15, 16, or 18. Not at 25. And certainly not now. Katsuki's eyes stung. His fingers went instinctively to his watch, the ticking time bomb that rings every now and then when his heart thumps irregularly, when it threatens to break free from its cage and embarrass him in front of everyone. What did he want from you? Shouto asked. Katsuki's eyes latched onto him. How could that bastard be so calm and collected right now, he thought. But thankful, nonetheless. Izuku opened his mouth and Katsuki thought he might say something. But it clamped shut, and he turned towards Katsuki expectantly. He wants me to join his fucking underground network. Move over there and fight in his war. And, fuck, I dunno, there was a whole lot of nothing. And everything. Please come with me, join us, do something with your life again. And Katsuki's eyes shook. I think he's being unfair. And what a surprising thing that was for Izuku to say. Katsuki raised a brow. Oh, Izuku turned to him with a firm stare, brows set in stone. Why would you fight his war for him? Izuku asked, perplexed. A thick coiling of something in his stomach. Something unpleasant. Because it's the right thing to do. Katsuki suggested. You've done enough, Kachan. Izuku said, indignantly. And Katsuki's face immediately fell into indignant curiosity, brow raised, eyes squinted. Scrutinizing the war hero on his sofa, who never understood the concept of enough when it came to himself, but here he was preaching it to Katsuki. You're kidding, right? Who are you to say that, huh? Katsuki laughed, and though he did not intend it to be warm, it sounded like that anyways. It bloomed in his stomach, like the yellowest yellow sunflowers. He's literally clueless. I can complain about carjackers and shoplifters, but when push came to shove, Katsuki turned lazily to Shouto, and held his gaze meaningfully. Stupid, fucking advice, over shitty beer. When push comes to shove, I can't do it. I can't go to war for him. I can't leave our peace behind. I can't go all in for him. Give him everything. You get it, Erkan. Do you love him, Kachan? Izuku asked. Katsuki kept looking at Shouto. If I loved him I wouldn't be here. I'd be on that plane to New York. Nah, I don't love him. Katsuki returned to his drink. But I could have, you know. Such a stupid thing to say. I could have gone all in. It could have been total victory. But he didn't. Coward. There was a lengthy stretch of silence. He couldn't do it. Not for him. And how hopeless was that? Well, it's a breakup situation after all, was Shouto's intelligent contribution to the conversation, Katsuki thought with a roll of his eyes. I don't think you two were right for each other, said Izuku, and Katsuki choked on a laugh. He raised a disbelieving brow at Izuku, who still had his brow crimped determinedly. Well, if Mr. fucking Right isn't the one for me then I should probably give up. Katsuki joked, and laughed mirthlessly. In his journey towards total victory, Katsuki cut Izuku the symbol out, and let the man into his living room while Katsuki debriefed about his love life. Katsuki had sought romance and found a sweet surgeon in a stuffy auction. He tried going dancing, tried listening to new music, tried traveling the world, he even found a boy who was just playful enough to err on the side of passion. Of chemistry. A boy who could deliver perfect victory to him on a platter. A new obsession gift wrapped in luxurious paper and a silken bow, begging for Katsuki to open and accept. Yet here he was, not exactly brave enough to grasp the one-way plane ticket to New York that sat idle on his bedside table. Katsuki thought, mirthlessly, what exactly is the difference between himself and the Izuku of that dinner? Turning away from endless violence because of, what? Lethargy, cowardice. All Katsuki knew with certainty was the shape of the weight in his stomach, wholly unpleasant. And the sting of knowing his apartment would be completely empty in a few hours. The three tittered around for a few hours, and it was Shouto who said next thing of worth. Should we get some drinks? Katsuki could stomach a few drinks in social situations, sitting in a bar, catching up with his rowdy friends, or at some kind of party. Not with three unlikely people sitting in his empty living room. Usually. Right now, he thought. What the hell, yeah. There's a store across the street, let's pick something up and bring it back. Katsuki jumped off the sofa and towards his coat rack. Izuku, you in? Izuku had been distracted for much of his time in Katsuki's apartment, but at the direct address he perked. Drinks. Yeah, sure. They both bundled up in their jackets, and left. Made quick work to run over to the convenience store. Wine? Shouto asked, and Katsuki thought, why the fuck not, huh? Shouto picked up a few cheap bottles of drivel, and placed it in Katsuki's basket. Izuku came over, dropped a handful of chocolates, chips, and other junk food on top. Katsuki wrinkled his nose. You seriously eat this shit? Izuku flushed. Well, not everyone has time to cook every meal. He insisted. You eat this shit instead of meals. Katsuki shouted, eyes squeezing into angry slits. Well, Izuku grappled for words. No, not by itself. I also buy no. Katsuki squinted, daring him to continue. Oodles, Izuku squeaked. Katsuki turned away in a huff and stomped over to the vegetable aisle. He chuckled enough broccoli, carrots, and leeks into his basket to cover the plastic garbage. I'm gonna force feed him this entire thing tonight, just watch. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Katsuki stiffened. Ah, fuck. Katsuki turned around, ever so slowly, and saw him. Teenager. Flushed. Both hands clamped against his mouth. Eyes wide and frantic, Katsuki gripped his basket fiercely, in an attempt to not roll his eyes. Oh my god, he screeched. Great explosion murder god dynamite, I. Nope, Katsuki thinks, I can't do it. And sneers. I freaking love you, dude. Katsuki rolled his eyes. Can I please get a picture? You a fan? Katsuki bit out through clenched teeth. The boy nodded. Up and down, then up and down again. So hard that Katsuki thought his neck might snap off. Then guess, Katsuki snapped, what my answer is going to be. Katsuki waited for the wince. But the sparkle did not leave the boy's eyes. Wow, okay, I'll leave you to it, Mr. Dynamite. Keep up the good work. He brandished a clenched fist, then turned away, mumbling, oh my god, oh my god. Katsuki quirked a brow. Oi, kid. The boy turned around with a vengeance, and bounced back up to Katsuki. Yes, he screamed, and Katsuki winced. The fuck are you obsessed with me for, huh? I was just fucking rude to you and you didn't even blink an eye. Respect yourself. Katsuki snapped, bringing out his index finger to scold the boy, go follow around Shouto or Uravity or something. I don't get it. You kidding me? The kid is all up in his face now. I love Dynamite the most because he's so honest. He's not like all those heroes who used to do shit for publicity, or someone who's kind for no reason. Katsuki's eyes widened. That's why I like you most of all. You're my favorite kinda hero. Katsuki sighed. One picture. And if you post it and suddenly everyone and their mom is asking me, then you're dead. Got it. The boy started vibrating. And don't fucking swear. Katsuki snapped. He took the picture and left the boy in his wake. Paid, and soon enough he was walking down the street towards his apartment. Shouto 2 steps in front, and Izuku even further ahead. Hey, favorite kind of hero. Katsuki could have laughed. That's hilarious. Katsuki's lips turned into a hesitant smile. A hesitant smile which bloomed into a genuine one. Then, a genuine smile grew into a toothy one. Ear to ear. Both sets of teeth bared. One step, then another, then another. The sun was setting orange. Hoot. Katsuki stopped dead in his tracks. Perked his ear. Gone. Huh. He jogged up to Shouto, and Katsuki's arm lifted without his permission. Suddenly he wasn't Katsuki anymore, he was Eijiro, who had no qualms with casually slinging his arm over his friend's shoulders and pulling them close. Whispering conspiratorially in their ear. Katsuki's arm landed, and Shouto was stiff for only a second. He turned with a curious, small smile. You know, Aircon, Katsuki started, there might be owls out here tonight. Oh, Shouto asked curiously, how do you? I think heard him sing. They count as birds, right? Even though they're slightly freaky. It took Shouto a few seconds to understand why Katsuki would say such a strange thing, with such light eyes. After all, it had been such an insignificant conversation. Over 2 years had passed since that confusing night on a rooftop bar. When they had talked about what kind of hero Katsuki wanted to be over stale beers. Eventually, though, Shouto's eyes widened in understanding. And he laughed, eyes crinkling at the sides. Oh, right, he offered. Hey, what's? Katsuki's lifted towards Izuku, who had turned around. Izuku's eyes caught Katsuki's arm slung over Shouto's shoulder, then moved to their easy smiles. And he smiled hesitantly. What's going on? What are you talking about? Katsuki stepped over to Izuku, pressed a palm against his back and pushed him along the path to his apartment. None of your business, Deku. To be continued. I hope you enjoyed this story. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.